gentlemen. Good morning, Kaza. Mr. Kyle B, good morning. Good to see you here. Good morning, Mr. Stone. Good morning, Josh. Mr. Josh, that is. Good morning, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Landfill, good to see you. We've got a lot of snow on the ground. It's a chilly 21 degrees. What's going on? I'm all cattywampus here. Goodness, we have got some snow today. Yes, we are going to be busy today. Welcome back to the SNOWSTReaM. Boy, gentlemen, I apologize. I was supposed to blow snow yesterday. It snowed all night, and man, I got hit again with a stomach bug. I was slept all day, slept all night. I'm feeling better today, but this would be about the extent of what I'm going to be doing today. So I thought before I got buried alive, we would get out here and do our SNOWSTReaM. So welcome, everyone. We got about a foot of snow in the last 24 hours. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Nowie. Mr. Nowie, to you. Good morning, Jacob. Mr. Warner. Good morning, Evan. Yeah, the skiing is good right now, actually. Mrs. W is up skiing right now. She's met with some friends. Good morning, Mr. Bard, Ridge Runner Blade. Shout out to you. I have your box, Lord willing. If I can muster up the stamina, I'm going to do that unboxing this afternoon. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But thank you for that. Mr. Barr writes. What does he write here? Must be nice to have snow. Indeed, it is. I don't think North Carolina man gets a whole lot of snow. Shut off my impeller here. All right, let us proceed. Good morning, Jake. Good to see you here. And Eli. Good morning, Scott. Mr. Cochran. got a probably got a good foot on the ground right now. Fresh snow. 21 degrees, it's pretty cold. Yes, after Mr. Barr from Ridge Runner Blades has got a very special knife, he said, that I'm going to be featuring today. Now, Mr. Barr doesn't send things lightly. If he takes the trouble to send it, it must be something good. So we'll do that unboxing hopefully this afternoon. I never thought about the live stream unboxing. We'll see. We'll see how we go. We got quite a bit of snow to deal with here today. Boy, it's slippery too. I'm sliding off the road. Can't get any traction. Goodness. Shout out to Kyle B. We have a super chat. Kyle says, "Have you heard of anything drones jamming Starlink?" And I have not heard that. The whole Starlink thing is very mysterious. I don't know exactly how all that works, to be honest with you, but I have not heard that. I follow the news pretty close, but I have not heard that. We have a super chat from our beloved Mr. Barr. Shout out to you, Jason. Says, "Just FYI, I texted you a video." Okay, I'll check that. Man, I was, thank you guys for those super chats. I was on death's door the last 24 hours. I don't know, something attacked me, the worst stomach bug I ever had, and I was in bed all day yesterday, but I'm feeling a lot better today. Boy, is it icy and slippery, my goodness. Can barely get traction here. All system go, yes, no error codes today, but all is not perfect in the Caterpillar world. The machine is running flawlessly, but I notice I've developed a small hydraulic leak in the back lift. Probably a hose. It's not obvious, so we're going to have to take a look at that. But it's just a very small dribble, for now, so I think we're okay. But I'm keeping an eye on it. But once we get the snow plowed, we're going to have to take a look at that. Good morning, Mr. Landfill, sir. Sounds like content, yeah. Well, probably make it another trip to the cat store, but we'll see. I don't know, I just drip it a little bit down the side. Congrats on the new tee. Thank you, Kason. Appreciate that. Nice to have my smile back. I really am enjoying that. Have to learn how to talk and chew again. Thank you, Jacob, for the prayers. Boy, I was having a hard time yesterday. Thank goodness for Mrs. W taking care of me. I was really sympathetic for those who don't have someone to look after them when they get that flu. That's pretty rough. Yeah, I don't like to have a hydraulic leak at all. That bothers me terribly. It makes a tremendous mess. But we'll get on it. We have priorities here. More camp's doing okay. Mr. Jiraiya, bless him, went down there yesterday and did reinforce the ridge pole, got the snow off, we got the diesel heater going, so it seems to be doing good. I'll go check on it later. Yeah, my favorite semi-truck, I used to own one. I had a 68, I think it was 68 or 69 Diamond Rio conventional tractor. which was cool, but I've always been kind of partial to the Peterbilts. Yeah, John, that's a sore spot in my life. I don't know if I really captured the exasperation and the difficulty in the content, but oh my goodness, what a misery that was. That right there cured me of ever buying old diesel equipment again. My goodness. We have a super chat from Mr. Robert Thomas. Shout out to you, Robert. Thank you for being so generous. Robert writes, I'm starting to think that we are truly living under a firmament. I heard you refer to the flat earth many times. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I don't believe that the world is what they say it is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I just don't buy the round earth spinning however fast. I don't believe any of that. I don't buy it. I think and I don't even know if space is what it is. I don't claim to know, but I do know that NASA is a liar and probably, allegedly, the largest money laundering scheme in the history of mankind, and it might be in our lifetime that we find out. Maybe this is all going to be true, but I don't know exactly what the firmament is. Some people say it's water. I do not know. The Bible is a little mysterious on this, but as the Almighty said, or Paul said through the Almighty, we now see through the glass dimly, but in the coming days, all of this is going to start to come clear. I've noticed it. I think a lot of people that follow God's word have noticed that the scriptures seem to be opening up. God is doing something. He's moving upon the saints in some way. So we just have to be patient, and he gives us what we need to know when we need to know it. And that's frustrating sometimes. We think we can handle it, but I don't know that we could. So just hang on tight, buckle your seatbelts, gentlemen. It's a very interesting time to be alive. History is being written right now, and you are get to be partake in it. So don't despair. Just draw close to the Almighty and hold on for the miracles that are going to be coming. I'm very excited. But thank you for that super chat, Robert. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, but I would say that I believe wouldn't be surprised if the earth was flat. Let us proceed. I have not, Men of the Forge, I have not heard of this. Well, I'm going to take one more pass here. Goodness, it is a lot of snow. And we could use the plow, but the skid loader is a lot more fun. We probably got 16 inches on the ground. Wouldn't surprise me. Oh, did I miss a super chat? Goodness. Shout out to Brendan Bourne. I'm so sorry about that. I missed you. Thank you for your generosity, Brendan. I really do appreciate that. Brendan writes, is the blower used in float? Does the country pole plow the road? No, I have not used the blower in float. I've tried it a few times, but it seems to there's not enough down pressure, or it seems to ride up and give me problems. I have not used that. Yes, if you look right now, I just switched the camera. Here comes the county plow. You see him go by right now. There he goes. Thank you, Brendan, for that. I really appreciate it. And Mr. Cooper, I'm glad to have you here. Yes. It's been kind of an extraordinary last month. Our streams got interrupted for various things, but I'm working my way back. I was planning on being on yesterday, but I had the man flu, which I suffered. You know, as you know, I'm a super taster, and super tasters, they suffer terribly with the man flu. Dr. Prepper's in the house. I think the neighbors are okay with my snow blowing, based on the simple fact that I go over and I take care of their driveways for them as well. So I haven't heard anybody complain. But as you know, no good deed goes without punishment. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Back Creek on the mailbox. We're going to go out there and plow that out for our mailman right now. Good morning, KK. That's Mr. KK. Oh, good. This is Honk the Horn. We have a big super chat. Mr. Section of Hate. Shout out to you, brother. We sure do appreciate your generosity. Section of Hate has got a comment here. Longtime fan. I am LE and understand your opinion on our line of work. I share much of the disdain even to my own coworkers. I'm curious, are you in the opinion that law needs to change or needs to be dismantled? It needs to change terribly. I'm not going to be... I'm not going to backtrack here because you know what I'm talking about. There are a lot of bad eggs, bad apples in law enforcement that go into it for the wrong reason. It needs to be reformed drastically. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think one thing that would really help would be to make sure the law enforcement is made up of people that live in your community. No more free agents. No more people living an hour out of town coming into the cities and policing and being involved in a community that they're not invested in whatsoever. Not to mention accountability. We have one exception that I have made, and I will keep making this because it's been my experience. I've had good luck with a lot of sheriff's departments. Not all, but most of them I've dealt with been pretty good. The difference with the sheriff's department is, one, the sheriff is elected. He's elected by the people, so there's some accountability right there. And in this area, they live in the community. So I know a couple of these guys. I would consider myself, maybe not friends, but acquaintances with them. I know where they live. They know where I live. Our kids go to the same events, sporting things, so that makes a difference. So, you have some accountability, but I don't know what the solution is, especially when you get into the big cities. But yes, it needs to change drastically. It needs to be, it's so adversarial. Just the training, the mentality of us against them. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And I'm not going to backtrack on it. Everything I've said about law enforcement, I stand, and I'm not a fan. I think it's just terrible what's happened. My own personal experiences, the power tripping, just think about how you feel when one of these pigs comes up behind you, these city cops. You're just racked with terror, even though you're not done anything wrong. You don't have anything in the car, but you know that they're going to find a way to pull you over, to jam you up, and it's a terrifying experience. And that in itself tells me that something needs to change fundamentally with law enforcement. It is an abomination. But thank you for that super chat. If I were you, I would quit and find an honorable profession. Shout out to Brendan Bourne. Do you see the Firebox skid steer? Did you see yes, I have. Actually, I went on there, and thank you for that, Mr. Brendan. What he's talking about is there's a really cool wildland firefighting attachment for skid steers now, where you take off, the front, you hook up to it, and it's a water tank with a fire pump on it that's hooked to, how I move the chute back and forth on the snowblower? I believe you can move the chute from the cab. And it has a dozer blade on the front. It's super, super skookum. When I had someone recommend that to me and I went and looked at it, and I was very excited. I thought, I'm going to contact them about getting it. However, my skid steer is too small. Only the very, very biggest skid steers, like the big Caterpillars. I forget what number designation they are, the 759s or something, can handle that. I think it has to be able to have a 3,000-pound working load. So I was really sad about that. If they would make one, they should make one for the smaller skid steers, even if it was a smaller tank, like 85 or 100 gallons, and just do kind of a mini version of that would work with the working load of like a 249 or whatever it is. That would be amazing. But yeah, I would love to have one, but I couldn't possibly sling it with this. I think we have another super chat from Bafut Martian. Shout out to you. Thank you, brother, for your generosity. Bafut, what's he write? I gotta go back here. Nothing but the best production, gentlemen. You know how it is. Oh, come on, my sausage fingers. It's all messed up. B-Foot Martian writes, I've been praying for snow like yours. I own a small OPE dealership in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure, B-Foot, what an OPE, what is that? I have about 70K invested in snow blowers, and this is the third winter in a row with lower than average snowfall. Man, that's bad luck. Isn't that something? You live in an area that gets a lot of snow, and you start to grow a business only to not have any snow. That's a bummer. I can sympathize. It makes me sad. Goodness, I'm backing up here. But thank you, Beefy, for that. Jordan W, shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat. Do I prefer JKs or White's boots? Boy, I am torn. You know, you just touched on my two favorite boots. Here's the thing. My most favorite boot. How do I put this? Do you have anything in your life that you love the most or is your most favorite, even though it doesn't make any sense? You know, like the crazy girlfriend when you're younger, that you just can't stop thinking about. You know she's not the best for you. You know you could find something that was going to cause you less aggravation and headaches, but yet you want what you want, right? It's like that with Whites. Whites was the very first pair of boots that I bought with my first paycheck on a wildland fire in Colorado. I had them custom made. And I remember spending a whole summer, I was definitely poor back then, a whole summer on the fire ground with some less than ideal boots. And I would look at the guys, like these cool guys that were like in Hell Attack and these Type 1 IA hand crews and the smoke jumpers, and they were all wearing these white smoke jumpers. I thought that was like the pinnacle of coolness, and I would just drool and was green with envy to have a pair. I wanted them so bad. Well, I got my first pair, and it was all that I'd hoped. You know, then it was such a positive, great experience. So I wore Whites for a long, long time. I've also worn Nicks and Westco's, Danners, all the brand. So JK, my first pair of JKs were last year, 2 years ago or so, when Mrs. W and I went down there. JK apprenticed, I forget the names of all the guys, but the old man apprenticed with the White's Boot Company. That's how he learned the trade. So White's really is the OG, the granddaddy. Now, that being said, I would say that both boots, quality-wise, are exactly on par. Attention to detail, on par. Both of them are amazing, but I love the history of the Whites. I love just the memories of growing up with them. I loved that it was my first pair, and the look of them. You know, West Coast man is all about appearance and style, and the look of a White's boot, a White smoke jumper, is the gold standard. It just looks cool with the diamond shape and the flat toe on the front. It is very, very nice. However, the JK boots don't look as good in my opinion, but are so much more comfortable and easy to break in. So you can get the Whites to the point where the JKs are, but you're going to spend 6 months in them. You really have to put the effort in. So, but also, you know, I also have to preface this that the JKs that I have are a lighter weight boot, a lighter duty boot that's more set up for tradesmen, guys who are going to be working lighter duty work. Whereas the fire boot that I have from White's is a full-on fire boot. So if you were, I'd have to actually take a JK fire boot and compare it side by side. But Jack had the JK fire boots, and he said the break-in was easy, but he didn't have anything to compare it to. So would I say what's my favorite? Both. You just touched on my two favorite boots. I would go and arm yourself with that information if you're on the fence of a pair. If you don't care about looks, go with the JK. Not that it's hard to answer this question. It's like which one of my two children are better? You know, I can't really say that. They're different, right? They're both good. Let your conscience be your guide. Whatever gives you the fizz. Thank you for that. Thank you, Jordan, for that super chat. Goodness, Dr. Prepper's in the house. Shout out to you, Dr. Prepper. Good to see you here. Dr. Prepper says, I'm getting older and have eye issues. Right-handed shooter, left eye dominant. Recently injured left eye, making it harder. I think switching to a red dot or carry guns are opinions. You know what you might do, Dr. Prepper, is like, I'm not going to come in here and pretend to know anything about what you're talking about. I was watching the sheriff of Baghdad. I like him. I was, and he's kind of known as the iron sights guy. And he made the best argument for that I have ever come across. I'm trying to recall it. I'm in brain fog here from my affliction. But I would recommend Dr. Prepper go on YouTube and search up the Sheriff of Baghdad, go to his site, go to his YouTube channel, and he makes a really good argument for this. And he talks about guys with failing eyesight or problems. And he's going to give you so much better advice than I could. But that's all I could really share with you. And I can't even remember all the details of the argument that he made, but I remember when I was listening to it, I was nodding along, you know. So I would recommend that. Timothy. Shout out to you, Timothy. Timothy says, bring back the concept public servant law enforcement with doctors with little black bags, and they visit your home. I'll buy a lunch next time you visit Astoria. Yeah, I think that's, you know, touching upon what can we do to fix our broken law enforcement. Absolutely. We have a small clinic in our town here that's just a mile away that is that type of a doctor. It's run by a husband and a wife. Both of them have incredible resumes and experience. 20 years, surgeons, you know, really qualified doctors that are working as a GP. And they're also of our kind of line of thinking of looking to more natural remedies than just throwing drugs at everything, if you know what I mean. We go regularly. Our kids have gone. Mrs. W has gone for cuts and bangs and bruises or colds or influenzas or problems. How it works is it's $60 to visit. It's a $60 visit, and all follow-up visits are free. And so popular is this practice that people from surrounding communities have heard about it, and they try to come. But there's only so much that can go around. You know, there are only 2 people, and so they have to limit it to only treating and dealing with, ministering to folks in the community. So that's an amazing thing to have. And you ask anyone who knows anything about real healing, and they'll tell you that one of the worst things you can go is to go to the hospital. A lot of them are pill pushers. They're not looking at the source of what it is that's giving you problems, i.e. what's your environment, what are you eating. Rather than they just throw medication at it, put band-aids on things. And again, I don't want to, I have a very bad habit, Mrs. W keeps bringing this to my attention, of painting everything with a broad brush, and she's right. She's right. But there's far too many. I would not seek for health advice from Western doctors typically. I just don't know that they have anything to offer you. When it comes to setting broken bones, doing surgery, life-saving surgeries, you know, that's a whole different thing. But a lot of our problems, I think, could be cured with getting out, touching grass, changing our diet, get some sun on your face, and shed that 100 pounds you've been packing around, and start walking and drinking water instead of soda. Stop drinking alcohol, you know, those things. So that's a good question. I'm going to back up here. Sorry, I'm ranting. But I think so, Timothy. I agree with you. From Astoria, I actually, after we spoke the other day, I had told Mrs. W, I said, I'd like to go take you to Astoria this spring, and her eyes lit up. We always have a nice time there. So we will definitely be in town. Goodness, we have a super chat from Fire Creek Forward. Shout out to you, Fire Creek. Thank you for your generosity. Fire Creek says the only thing that will ultimately change law enforcement and the rest of culture is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, that would do it as well. That would do it as well, but I don't know that that's something that we can really hang our hat on. The good book says, narrow be the way and few be that find it, unfortunately. And not a lot of people are going to embrace that. Not a lot, but who knows? Maybe there's a revelation coming. There's many examples in the Old Testament when the children of Israel, they got sidetracked and got off the straight and narrow into the ditch. that the Almighty would do a couple different things. He would bring a pestilence upon them. Could have been in a famine, or it could have been in a invading army, or he would send a prophet of the Almighty down to turn over tables and to whack hives. And usually it was always a hard lesson, and not all of them survived the lesson, but it would bring the population as a whole kind of back in alignment with God. So, you know, he says that I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. I changeth not. So we like to think that we don't have anything in common with those old people. And when we read about shepherds and camels and Roman sandals and stuff, it's hard to relate with the technology and just the world that we live in today. But I tell you that your study of the Old Testament, you'll come to the conclusion that people never change. The same problems that they had back then are the same problems we have today, for sure. So the way that he corrected his church, the way that he corrected the children of Israel back in the day, will be, in my opinion, the method that he'll use for the saints in the end times. You know, he never does anything major without sending his mouthpiece, his prophet, to warn the people. Oh man, it's good to have your teeth fixed so you can drink cold water and not go into the stratosphere when something touches your bad tooth. That's a good question, or that's a good point. I'm backing up here. That's a very good point, Fire Creek Forge, and thank you for bringing that into the conversation. I couldn't agree more. Some people will serve because they want to. Some people will serve out of fear. We have a super chat, another one from our generous brother, Mr. Jason Barr. Shout out to you, Jason. Jason says, verse of the day, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Now this is from the book of Matthew. And all these things shall be added unto you. Yes, you know, and that really is applicable to us right now in this time of uncertainty. You know, I guess the red flag, you know, that's the popular term now, red flag this, the red flag in your walk of faith is that when you start to feel yourself getting anxious and worrying about things, and you're miserable, or you're swimming, as I think Solomon wrote, the man that swims in his bed all night. Have you ever been so heavy laden and burdened with the cares and worries of life? Those of us who are self-employed will definitely relate to this. Have you not just swam in your sheets, just rolling and turning all night, not getting any rest for the anxiety of the coming day? I certainly know I have. I did that for decades. Excuse me. That's the red flag where you're not right, where you're not square with the Almighty. The Almighty says, like Jason said this here, I'm gonna back up here, get that right, because I don't know my scripture as well as I should, do I? I'm operating on 4 cylinders today, so you cut me some slack. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. What the Almighty's telling us is, don't worry about all this stuff, where you're going to eat, how you're going to pay your mortgage, how you're going to pay your rent. I understand this. I know what you have need of before you even ask. Seek first me. Seek first my love, that relationship. I'll take care of all those things. I don't want you to worry about them. Do you not think I don't know about it? Have I not known you so intimately that I know how many hairs are on your head? So here you have a father. Did your father know you so intimately that he knew all of the things that you love and desire and your passions and your dreams? How many of us had fathers that cared that much? You know, I don't know, very few, if any. I know myself. My dad didn't know me. I didn't know him. Not at all. My grandfather, did he know me? Not really. But your father so intimately knows you. He knows the very heads on you. He knows what you have need of. He knows what you're anxious about. The reason why you're anxious, and the reason why he allows you to be so miserable in your anxiety, is he's hoping he'll drive you back home. To lift up your eyes. As Moses, when the children of Israel were being destroyed by the fiery serpents, he took a fiery serpent and he raised it up on a pole. And he made the proclamation, any of you who look up to that brazen serpent on that pole will be saved. And that was an example of Christ being raised up on the cross. So was the fiery serpent, was ultimately their salvation and their destroyer. And those who looked up to it, looked up to Christ, cried to the cross, Father, save me. They were saved from the fiery serpents. That was a prophecy of things to come, an example to us. Goodness, I'm ranting. Talking about things I know nothing about again. Thank you for that, Mr. Barr. Goodness, we have a super chat from Sam Carrigan, or Cargaran. Thank you, good to see you back, Sam. Appreciate that. Sam says, I got my first GB small forest axe. Lincheen is on the way, or linseed. If you were to pair it with another for camping or for a camping trip, would you go smaller hand hatchet or bigger felling splitting axe? Oh boy, that's a good. You really need both. You know, you really touched on the three that I would like to have. The first one that I would buy would be that small forest axe, just like you did. It's among my personal favorites. Do you know, fun fact, that I don't currently possess one? I've possessed several, but I always end up giving them away. You know, I like to give gifts. You know, I get so much stuff and gear and people sending me stuff. I made the decision I'm not going to hoard any of that. So as it comes into my hands, it comes out of my hands. The good book says, cast your bread upon many waters and it will come back to you abundantly. Meaning, be generous. When someone asks you something, or when you can, let it come out of your hand. And what you do openly, God will reward you privately. So I don't even have one, but yeah, that's a good choice. I would say that it depends on how heavy your work is. If you're kind of you're pro-ho light and you're just going to go camping once in a while and you'd like to have a little bit of firewood around camp and do different things, I would pair that axe with a good silky folding saw, like a silky big boy. That's the next thing that I would get. That gives you a really good combination. You can cut and process up to 12-inch wood real nice. And if you like to work around the campfire and you like to do small projects and whittling and carving, then the little hand hatchet is really nice. I would like, if I'm not like cutting firewood by hand, the three axes that I would like to have would be the small forest axe, the hand hatchet, and probably something like the Grand Force big splitting axe, or the Holtz Brooks the Helco Works big splitting maul. That's what I was thinking of. But kind of what do you like to do if you're going to be doing a lot of firewood and you're actually going to be splitting a cord or two of wood for your own use, then you're going to want to get a big splitting maul like the Helco or the Grand Force. Any of the German or the Swedish mauls are going to be good. I'll tell you, if you're balling on a budget and you want a really good tool, I've been very impressed with the Steel brand. They have a full range of hatchets, splitting axes, splitting mauls, and their stuff is really nice. Really, really nice. All right, goodness, get behind here. We have, I think I got another super chat. But thank you, Sam, for that. Brendan Bourne. Shout out to you, Brendan. Brendan writes, I think reliance on big pharma meds stemmed from free healthcare like we have here in, is that Australia or New Zealand? Sorry. I always forget. I know New Zealand, and I can remember Australia. Australia is that big island off the New Zealand coast. Is that right? Do I have that right? The expectation that a doctor or meds fixes everything. Yeah, I'm surprised. You know, I'm in a different position because I came from out of a Christian cult that... Oh, I'm dry as a sponge here. I came out of a Christian cult, raised in it, that taught us to be very distrustful of Western medicine and doctors. Kind of like the Jehovah's Witness. I was not a Jehovah's Witness, but I have a friend who is, so we compare notes all the time. We were absolutely forbidden to seek medical attention. We had terrible things. Most of the people in the church were a blue-collar black background that rode motorcycles, dirt bikes, so I lost many friends. My first cousin died after being in labor with her first child for 4 days and died needlessly. My sister had to live through a ruptured appendix that almost killed her, etc., etc. I had have a compound fracture collarbone set with no anesthesia by the church elders and tied to a piece of plywood for 4 weeks. You know, I understand, I get it. And that ain't even the tip of the iceberg of what I saw. So I was raised to be very distrustful of Western medicine. So even now to this date, it's just ingrained in me. I do not look to them as gods like so many people do. It marvels. I marvel that people will so blindly trust Western physicians and just do everything they say without doing their own intervention or their own investigation or their own due diligence, or just listening to their own body. Physician, heal thyself. That's the church scripture that they used to bang us over the head with. You know, I didn't know the Bible. I didn't really understand. Like, okay, physician, heal thyself. So that's the words of Christ. And they would say, well, it's him telling you, don't go see a doctor. You're only sick because you lack faith. And that's a terrible environment to be in. So if you do find yourself stricken with cancer or a disease, you got the whole congregation telling you or implying that, well, if you had more faith, if you weren't such a dirty sinner, you'd be healed. Very, very similar to the faith and the dogma of the Pharisees back in Christ's days. They believed if you were rich and prosperous, it's because you were a good man of the faith, and God was was rewarding you because of that. But if you were leprous or poor in the gutter, well, that meant you were a great sinner, regardless of whether you were or not. You know, Christ came to clarify all of that, but Phariseeism we've always had with us. Sorry, gentlemen, I'm ranting. Thank you, Brendan, for that super chat, but I agree. We have a super chat from Z Torrance. Where's my shout out to you? Z writes, some get spiritual because they see that the light, and some cause they feel the heat. I'm farthest from being religious, but figured I'd share. Yeah, those are some pretty deep waters. Thank you for that. And live in peace. Did you see President Trump with it was a female reporter from Afghanistan with a really thick accent. And she was in the back, and I think he was with that demon Netanyahu. Synagogue of Satan. She's asking something and he can't understand, and the way he plays it off, and he finishes with, well, I don't really know what you said, but you have a lovely accent, and well, the only thing I can say is do well and live in peace, right? It was absolutely hysterical how well he handled that. So I thought that was pretty clever. But thank you, Z Torrance, for that. That's bringing the deep philosophy here to the warband. Back Creek, we have a super chat. Generous, $20. Thank you for that. Very generous of you. Diesel Fund. Well, thank you for reminding me. I just tipped down to about just less than half, and that's about 7 gallons of diesel remaining here. This tank, I looked up the stat while I was convalescing the other day, has a 15-gallon tank, so it's not very big. So I was going through, I was being a nerd because I like to read tech. I've never confessed this before, but I like to read technical manuals of equipment that I have in my own time. Now, I detest it if I have to go through it when I'm trying to fix something, because I feel like it slows me down. But if I'm just laying in bed wondering if I'm going to live or die, then I'll read technical manuals to take my mind off my worries. So I was going through all of the different accessories and such that were available for this machine, and I noticed that Caterpillar has all these cool forestry packages and stuff. But one of the things that they have are 2 additional fuel tanks, and they bolt on to the side, and they give you like an additional 61 gallons or something like that. And I thought, oh, I'll have that. Man, that would be excellent. I could put those on the back. It's going to give me a little bit more ballast, and I'm going to have fuel for the whole week. I won't have to fill it up all the time. Well, then I went and cross-referenced the price, and it was like a $15,000 upgrade or something to that effect. So no thank you. I don't know what I was thinking. What did I think it was going to be? $300, from Cat. Backing up here. But thank you, Back Creek for helping with the diesel fund. We have a super chat from Special K206. Shout out to you, Special K. Thank you for your generosity. What brand are your clogs? I need some fizz-worthy footwear that's not boots. Well, Mrs. Debbie and I wear the Dansko, D-A-N-S-K-O. It's a Dutch. It's the professional clog in black or brown leather, the classic one. These clogs are Danish. And they're so comfortable once you get them broke in. They're often worn by people who are on their feet all day long. You'll see them if you look at your waitress or waiter. Anyone who's been on their feet a lot will wear them. They're worn a lot in ERs, emergency rooms, nurses and doctors that are on their feet a lot. They are, if you do not have cat-like reflexes like Proho does, then be very careful wearing these on uneven ground or anything that's gravel. They are not recommended. You will turn your ankle, you will break your ankles terribly, unless you have cat-like reflexes. Now, Danger is my middle name, so I go out in all environments with them because I have those reflexes, as you know, and I can handle it, and I've assumed the risk. So, I'll tell you, when I broke my femur a couple years ago, my neighbor, who was a surgeon, coming back and forth, was doting on me and looking after me and checking on me during my convalescence. And she came one time, and I was walked outside to meet her, and I was wearing those, and she came unhinged and told me how dangerous they are on uneven ground, and a man of my advanced years with such a dangerous injury should not be anywhere near those things, etc., etc. So you have been warned, but that's what they are. So let the buyer beware. But thank you, Special K. We have a super chat from our beloved Mr. Josh C. Shout out to you. No spend year, but looking at the 15K fuel tanks. Yes. Well, one can always look, right? It's window shopping. I wasn't going to actually buy them, but I'd just like to know in the back of my mind, if let's say that I put in and got a wildland firefighting contract, I want to know what is available to me, right? I know I'm going to regret. I am going to regret the fact that I told you guys that there was going to be a no spend year, because you know exactly what's going to happen, that I will be eating crow regularly and have to justify and mea culpa all these wants, not needs. Yes, you know me too well, Mr. Josh. Thank you so much. I know I don't have to justify it with you, Josh, but there will be others. All right, let us proceed. It is currently snowing heavily and 21 degrees. Nothing wrong with looking, yes. Thank you, Greg, for that. How is the audio, gentlemen? Give me be honest. I want to know the truth, even if it's painful. I'm trying to make it as good as can be. Jonathan, he's going to hold me to it. 5x5. Is the background noise bearable with the machine? Oh, goodness. We have a super chat from our beloved... Uh-oh. Hold on. We have a super chat from our beloved Overton sponsor. Shout out to you, brother. Thank you. Overton says, I wanted to just say thank you for everything you do in speaking the truth on the topics Ephesians 5:1. Above all, praise be to the Lord. Yes, that's the most important thing, and that's the lesson that we learned. Those of us who are men of the book from the Old Testament learned that God takes a dim view of anyone that's been given a spiritual gift and then takes credit for it. That's why, and the reason isn't because he just wants to be the top G all the time. He understands what the end result of pride is. C.S. Lewis, probably one of the greatest minds of the last 100 years, said that of all of the sins that we can commit, compared to pride, they're like flea bites, insignificant. See, pride was the very first sin. Sin was not known in the kingdom until the adversary, the Satan and the devil, until it came into his mind. Pride is what came up and started the war in heaven and brought us to where we're at today. This experiment that you and I are participating here on this flat earth are a result of pride. And pride is of all sins the most dangerous. I heard someone say pride in a man is like water. You need a little bit of it to survive, but in too much will drown you. And that's a very, very wise saying. I lost my train of thought here. I'm ranting again, talking about things I know nothing about. But what's replete in the Old Testament is men that excelled and won. They humbled themselves and they gave glory to God. But the moment that a man took that upon himself and took the gift of God or the talent and claimed it to himself, all of those men were destroyed, and destroyed quite terribly. God takes a very dim view of that. And that's those of us that are men, that's what we really wrestle with. Number one, pride is going to be the one that trips us up the most. Pride and our tongue. The tongue is the smallest member of the Bible, or the Bible tells us the smallest member of our body, but it's the one that does us the most harm. You can dig a grave with your tongue. Eli, we have a super chat. Shout out to you, Eli. Eli says, would you be open to a warband giveaway to take some of the dono money and get some nice to give to a random member? Yes, I would be open to it. I will give attention to it, but I don't want to be involved with handling any product or shipping anything out. But yeah, bring whatever you're thinking to me, and we can take a look at that. Yes, Adam says, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. Exactly. All right, let us proceed. Look both ways before crossing the road. Shall we clear out for our mailman? Boy, it's slippery. I hope I don't fall in the ditch. Nice dry snow, chilly 21 degrees. What's the best gear to add to your fupa? In mine is a tourniquet, a Surefire EDC flashlight, an extra magazine, and usually my wallet and my big gangster roll of cash. Would I be out flexing in these streets? No, I like to have cash on me if I ever come across a good deal. My grandfather used to be a private money lender. He had money from businesses one of his businesses was people that couldn't get a loan, they'd come to him and he kept collateral. So we always had, I didn't realize it at the time, but we always had strange possessions, that pieces of collateral, pieces of property or businesses or restaurants of people that had taken out loans that couldn't pay. And interesting people on my dad's side. I'm going to have to make one more pass, but I'm going to have to plow downhill because it's so slippery. Is there any music artist that you would go to a concert if they came to your neck of the woods? Oh, yeah, but every time I mention it, all the Christian fundamentalists come out of the wood and condemn me to hell, so I'm reluctant to even cast my pearls before swine. goodness, we have a super chat. Shout out to Brendan Bourne. Brendan writes, no spend high capacity cat forestry optional track loader with firebox and auxiliary fuel tank option. There is snowblower adequate. Yeah, you know, that might fall into the category of need. You see, that's the nice thing about us, gentlemen, is if any time you need justification to make a major purchase with your loved ones or your wife, I'm your huckleberry. I understand. I get it. I would expect you guys return the favor so that I could bring that proposal to Mrs. W that, well, if we're going down that road, then why don't we just go ahead and budget in a brand new skid steer and get the big one and put the cooling package on and the rock browser guards and the extra canopy that's will save you if a tree falls on it, and just do the whole thing. I would agree. Thank you so much, Brandon. I appreciate that. All right. Whoops. Let us proceed. Oh, somebody asked me, I was just thinking, came to mind, someone asked me about Grand Thumb, my take on the Grand Thumb controversy. That was 2 months ago. I didn't even know about it. But I did look into it a little bit, and it sounds like he was married twice. If I may have this wrong, but his last wife, who he has had 3 kids with, he got involved with cheating on her or sexting or something with some e-thought on the internet. And some were saying that she was very young or something. So that's all I know. So what do I think about that? What I think about that is we're all living in glass houses, right? And I'm certainly not one to get up on my high horse and crow about anything. I've got my own cross to bear. However, with that being said, when you are, it does look very bad. When you're LARPing as the trad guy, the Christian man with a wife at home, and the trad woman. When you're LARPing as that, and that's your whole brand, and you're talking to the young people at the end of your videos and giving encouragement, hey, be like me, the trad guy, and then you're out with the e-thoughts, just greater is the fall. So I guess I would look, if I had like a guy, like a hard drinking, hard swearing, but good-hearted guy that was on the internet being who he was, and not making pretenses and not being something, or trying to hold myself up to a higher standard, and he falls and gets involved with something like this, that's one thing, right? But it's a whole nother thing. That's why it's so important that those people that are going to be taking on that heavy mantle of getting into the ministry, opening up a Bible study, even publicly professing to be a Christian, the responsibility that's put upon you to do the right thing and to not dishonor God in your conduct is just so much higher. So that's a very bad thing, and it reflects very poorly upon the gospel, and it's a great sin. So again, he does his thing. Can he repent of it? Can he get right? Of course. That's open up to all of us, but it doesn't look good. And I have to say that I can't look at the brand the same way as I used to. But I wish him well. I think he's a good guy, and I know I've benefited tremendously from his content. But it's a sad thing. You hate to see it. It's a bad deal. All right, let's clean up this edge here, gentlemen. And Mrs. W is not with us today. She went skiing with her friends, a ladies trip up the mountain, so we're all on our own today. Goodness, we have a super chat from our beloved brother, Back Creek. Thank you, Back Creek. We sure appreciate your generosity. Back Creek is currently looking for an older Ford, an F-250, like between 1970 and 1990. I've had all those trucks. What is your opinion on the older trucks? Looking for simplicity and reliability? Yeah, I think you're barking up the right tree. You know, I guess here's what you got to ask yourself. If you are a hands-on guy, you like to work on trucks, you like to change your own oil, you know, you've got that sort of thing going on, then those old trucks are good because you'll be working on them, and you can work on them. The other thing is how important are creature comforts to you? You know, your driving experience. Do you mind bouncing around in a 77 Ford straight axle? Do you mind just all the things not going to have iTunes or whatever, the iTunes or Apple CarPlay or sat nav or heated seats and all that? If you're that guy and that's not that important to you, then the older truck's going to be the way to go, because if you buy one of those old dead side Fords, they're already getting super expensive. They are going to appreciate in value always. It's money in the bank. Whereas you buy something like mine, it's going to depreciate. So I would say, yeah, I think that's good money. I think that's the way to go. Get something, and even look at, be realistic. To get a decent truck, you're going to spend 60 grand. Like, that's going to be entry level for like an F-150. So I would look at that type of money, like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend 20, 30 into something that's in good shape, or 20, and put another 10 into it. Put some money into the suspension, wheels and tires, go through the running gear, go get the drive shafts. You're going to want to redo the front end, who knows what, but have a little money, and then you have something nice, something reliable. But I think that's very wise. Let us proceed. Ranger. Had a friend that had one of those. We're always fond of the old little Ford Rangers. Goodness, we have a super chat from our beloved Brendan Bourne. Shout out to you, Brendan. Brendan says, ever consider GeoGrid for the driveway or the shop apron? I don't know what that is. What is GeoGrid? Thank you for your generosity. Anyway, let us proceed. Is it for heating? Savage Wagon is, do I ever live with regret for past decisions? Wow, how can you not? That's the human condition. I would say, short of a very, very tiny percentage of the saints, everyone does. Everyone does. How can you not? That's what makes you. I mean, I have a scar over my eye here, where I took the worst beating of my life from Big Jim. For a mistake. I'm reminded of it every time I see it, right? So, among other things, we all live with regrets. But you can get to the point, once you hold hands with the Almighty, once you have Christ in your heart, it's just one of the miracles, one of the greatest proofs that the gospel is real, is your ability to have peace and to get over those things. And you may need to make the hard phone call and make the apologies, or make right those that you have stolen from. I could tell you a story that made such a powerful impression upon me. It happened, I was pretty little, maybe a young teenager, and a strange man came to our house and knocked on the door, and I answered it. I didn't know who he was. He asked if my dad was there. And my dad was always a very kind person. My dad was one of the most generous people I've ever met, with his time and with gifts and helping people. He'd always been a general contractor and had guys working for him. And when you're a general contractor, you have a lot of tools and such, and a big problem is theft. So you'll have employees that steal from you, or who knows what. But this guy had worked for my dad for years, framing or something, and he had come to apologize, to make amends, because way back in the day, you know, 10 years prior or so, he had stolen a chainsaw from my dad, and I think he was there to make it right. You know, and I was just a kid, so I don't know the conversation, but I remember he told me about it, and I can tell you right now that in that one act that he did, that probably took a tremendous amount of courage. Well, not probably. You know how terrible that would be, to come and to own something like that. Can you imagine the shame? Can you imagine how difficult that drive would be? Oh, you know, that takes tremendous courage, more courage than most men could ever work up. And the fact that he did that, it made it right to all of those wrongs. And if I don't remember the guy, but if I ever saw him again, or he approached me, I would shake that man's hand, and I would have great admiration for him. And it's not because what he did he corrected the error. He owned it. And that just like the good book says, you know, when we come and we confess to the Almighty, we bring all that shame of all the things that we've done in the past. When we bring that to Him sincerely, He says, you know what I do? He says, I take all of that and I throw it into the deepest depths of the ocean, into the bottom, into the Marianas Trench, right, or beyond, signifying that He doesn't remember it anymore. Now when He looks upon you, He doesn't see what you've done in the past, but He sees just the pure, beautiful character of Christ that He's imputed upon you because you've accepted, not because you deserved it, just because He loves you that much. And so that's the remedy. That's the antidote to get over all of that regret and that shame. But yeah, that's a good question. I get it. I get it. We have a super chat from Old at Heart. Shout out to you. Thank you, brother, for your generosity. Shirt run for a nice watch giveaway. Sale equals entry. Yeah, whatever you guys want to put together. We only ask that our products are intentionally sourced from USA made. You know, I'm not going to rule out other countries. If we ever wanted to do a collaboration or some real nice, fine Japanese denim, I would never rule that out. But or even Germany. You know, the guys know. The guys know. But thank you, old at heart. Yeah, just let me know, and I can get behind any of that stuff. Down What I Want says, I have a Cat 249D also. I love it. It has 2,343 hours on it. How many hours are on my machine? 451. You know, I'll tell you that it's fun to have equipment, nice piece of equipment, a tractor that you can really take care of. I guess when I was younger, I bought a nice gray market Hitachi 120 machine, and I worked 120 hours a day. Not literally, but just I worked so much to make those payments and to pay for that thing and to keep it running. And the way I looked at that machine, it was, you know, the Native Americans, the American Indians, they rode horses when they fought the cowboys, the settlers, or whatever you want to call it. They looked at horses as only for two reasons: food and transportation. They didn't sing songs about their horses. They didn't get attached. They weren't pets to them. It was simply food and transportation. Or the cowboys, or the Western man. You know, you get affection. We love our animals and we take care of them. And like soldiers, when I read about soldiers, they come in after combat or after battle, and the first thing they do is take care of their horse even before themselves. So it was a very different mentality. And when I was feasting, you know, really in the mud trying to get it going, I looked at my equipment that way. But now, where you can just have something and just for your own pet projects and fun things and fiddling around the house, you have the time and the resources to read and follow the service manual and all, right? and all of that. So that's part of the fun of it. I think my enjoyment of like motorcycles, I figure my 300, for every hour I ride it, it's 1 hour, it's 3 hours of maintenance, literally. From when you talk about cleaning and maintenance, because it's such a high performance race machine. But to be honest, you know, that 33% of it is actually the riding of it, the enjoyment. The other 33 is going to be camaraderie with friends, and then the last 33 is going to be the joy of working on the machine and turning the wrenches and understanding how it works and all of that. So that's all part of it. But the point I'm getting at, with Caterpillar, you have a book and it gives you the full maintenance. If you want to be a nerd and geek out, you can geek out on the maintenance record manual, because it gives you, okay, at 500 hours you do all these things. So you change the gear, all the filters, and you change the oil in the final drives. You know, it's a full-on super service, right? So I couldn't wait to do it, so I did it at 425. Right? So, because I wanted to do it because it was fun. Sorry about that, but that's what we do around here. We have a super chat from Mr. Brendan Bourne, who writes, GeoGrid is layered on ground and gravel is poured over. It holds gravel in place. Yes, I am aware of this. They use this a lot in Europe. I think they use this in Japan as well. Funny you should mention that, because I was just looking into that. We have all this mud around the cap. We're going to go over there in a bit. Actually, we'll clean this driveway and we'll go over there. We have it's such a mud hole over there that I was actually considering doing that. Getting something like that where you grade it out, lay a concrete grid down, and then tie it all and key it all in with gravel. I would love to do that. I would much prefer that over asphalt. It's really nice. It handles the drainage a whole lot better. You don't have standing water, and it looks really nice. And you can let the grass or moss grow up through it, and you can just mow it. I think that's a great idea. Let us proceed. Propane or MAP gas? MAP gas is hotter, but they both work. I'd say whatever's cheaper. Good to see you here, Battle Chemist. Boy, the snow is fluffy. This is what we would call champagne powder in Colorado or Utah. Good morning, Mr. Cajun, sir. Our resident boomers in the house. Hopefully not actively working to undermine the millennials. Keep them down. Well, you boomers have got the millennials really salty. Watch your back. I don't know if I'd rest easy as a boomer with a millennial in my house. Especially if they're on Reddit. Oh, your status is secured. You are already in the Hall of Fame. All right, let's go change it up here. Let's see if we can plow the cabin out. We're definitely going to get into dirt and gravel here. The first person that can see and call me out for plowing dirt and gravel will get a honk the horn. Yes, he is at the Alpha Papa, the good crazy Cajun. He's from Georgia, you know. Oh, the snowblower can run a lot faster. I go slow for your viewing pleasure, so it's not so bumpy, and I just enjoy doing it. I don't know where the road is. Let's see. Oh yeah, we put the reflector here. I'm starting to get snow blind. We have that flat light. A flat light when you're snow biking or skiing or snowboarding is treacherous, because you do not have the ability to read terrain because the light is so bad. That can be improved drastically with an amber or the correct lens and a goggle. We have a $20 super chat. Shout out to the question tree. Thank you very much for that. Very generous of you. Not trying to nag. That's never a good way to start a super chat. But did you ever research the Japanese method for growing native trees on pasture? You know, I did not. I don't even remember this. It's called Miyawaki, the Miyawaki method. Thank you. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a screenshot. I got that. When I'm convalescing this afternoon here, I'm going to look that up. But thank you for the reminder. I don't know what that is, but the Japanese, they know these things. They're a very interesting people. Alright. Camera's not focused. What's going on here? There we go. Alright, we are gonna dump into a deep, about 2 feet of snow. Here we go. Super deep. Full power. Oh man, she's working, she's chooching now. I ran into something. Hold on, I gotta get everything trimmed right. You're watching a man operate at the extreme limits of his abilities. Okay. It was not a rock. Did you have to see it. I'm not going to give you the honk for that. Not gravel. Nice try though. Oh yeah, she's chooching now. We're burning diesel now. Don't see dirt. You know, there will be no liars in the kingdom, gentlemen. You may fool me, but the Almighty is watching. The blower is 8 feet. I had to, it requires so much power, or flow I guess it is, that I had to take the skid steer to Caterpillar and have them upgrade it to a high flow hydraulic system. Which I was not sad about at all. Only 8 foot. Must be, you don't see too many blowers bigger than 8 foot unless it's on a really giant machine or a big municipal dump truck or something. Hello, Mr. LePage. Ground or roof mounted? Always ground. I would never put a solar on a roof. It brings down the price of it. You can't clean it off. It is more secure though. If you're in a high crime area, you'd have to worry about vandalism, then I'd probably put it on the roof. I just realized I'm about 10 feet off the road. I'm going to start angling back the right direction. I'm trying to start the morning. I was gonna do the live stream tomorrow for the Bible study, but I was so sick. I slept all the way through it. I slept all day. We're shooting for Monday again, Lord willing. I just have not been feeling well. Yeah, in the past I rented heavy equipment when I had big jobs to do because I couldn't afford to have my own, but I own all my own now. No payments. Yeah, I'm feeling better today. Getting out here and getting some light on me and always helping. Thank you, Battle Chemist. No, I'm not pushing myself. I got a heated seat. It's nice and warm in here. I'm going to go back to bed when we're done. Well, she is chooching now, I'll tell you, working hard. No, Jason, I have not put the studs on the tracks because I haven't needed to. And the reason being, having those studs on there, it really tore up my asphalt and my shop floor. So, not advised for that. We have about 2 feet on the ground here. And we are definitely burning fuel. You can just about watch the fuel gauge move. Engine's running at 181 degrees. Hydraulic fluid's up to 163. We're charging at 13.8 volts. Yeah, we don't snowmobile, but we have snow bikes. No snowblower coffee for me. Mrs. W she's out skiing. Well, we're throwing snow about 100 feet. Trying to get to the cabin. Snow bikes, you take a 450 motocross bike, like a KTM SXF, and you put a ski on the front and the track on the back. Just look up KTM Yeti snow bike. Maybe someone could throw a link up there and you can see pictures worth 1,000 words. No, the Sweet Loaf did not go to skiing today. The Sweet Loaf on Fridays has, we homeschool, but on Fridays she attends a private Christian school for first graders. So she has that today. So that frees up a little time for Mrs. W to get outside and have a day to herself. Goodness, we have a super chat from Mr. Andrew B. Thank you, Andrew. We sure appreciate you supporting us here for the War Band Coffee Fund. Well, I appreciate that. Shout out to you. Let us proceed. Boy, she is chooching, gentlemen. Working hard. We have to save Mr. Peter. He's going to be snowed in. Oh yeah, snow bike's way better. Snow bike can go places snowmobile could only dream of. And you know, they're 250 pounds instead of a couple thousand. Goodness, we have Mr. Robert John Thomas is coming in with the super chat for $10. Shout out to you, Robert. You probably noticed I'm speaking with a lisp. I'm getting used to, I have to get back used to talking with normal teeth again. Robert John Thomas says, what would you say to a 47 male, small business owner, always attracted good-looking women, all right? So we're going to say Chad Light, who desires nothing more than to be married and have children, but can't find someone who is equally yoked. Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, I got to grow up at the very, very last of the normal American women before online dating. It was online dating and Facebook and iPhones, which changed, well, all women forever. You know, now, I mean, just to sum it up, now you would be able to find, you know, back in the day when I was younger and looking for a mate, you were able to find a pretty girl that lived in your town and get married and have a family. You know, I don't blame women for choosing the best, tallest, best looking guy they can get. You know, let them get their bag, as they should. You know, they want to pass on the best genetics to their children, etc. I understand that. I understand hypergamy, and I don't see that as a sin. It only makes sense. You know, they got to be taken care of as well. But with that being said, you know, she had, what were her choices? You know, they're relatively small, and so a guy could get a woman. Now, that the same girl can go online, and now she's getting DMs from NBA players that are willing to fly her down to Miami to be on a boat, or a ski trip in Colorado from some hip hop guy. This is the reality. So who are you? Who are you? You know, you're just some normal dude. You're not taking her to Aspen. You're not ordering the tomahawk steak, right? So once she gets used to that, she's online dating, private, you know, flying first class, how are you going to compete with that? So she's not going to want to go down. Girls don't like to go down once they've had something. Then they have an expectation of that's the way it's always going to be. What they don't understand is that NBA player and that rap guy, you know, they're just going to use them and put them back out into the streets, and now they've got another body on them, and their sexual market value is even lower. I mean, can you imagine, are you going to date a girl if you find out or see on her IG that she's been on a yacht in Miami? I mean, come now, what if she's been to Dubai? You know, how is this girl going to fund bankroll a trip to Dubai, staying at the Four Seasons? You know how that happens, right? It's prostitution. We don't call it that, but let's call it what it is. So this has made the options for men that are just normal dudes that want to have a family and want to have a committed relationship. This has limited this extremely, and you know, that's a sad truth. So I don't know, I don't know that you can take the risk, to be honest with you. I think if you want that, there are other options. You're gonna have to probably look into surrogacy. I think that's going to be, unfortunately, an option. If you're a band and you want to have a legacy, and how important that is, I don't know. That's all going to fall back on you. But you want to have the love of children, then you're going to have to look at surrogacy, to be honest with you. It's going to cost you about $100,000, but you can go to Eastern Europe and you can have these women for about $100,000. They will provide you with children. So here's the deal. You know what you're going to spend on keeping a family and a wife, especially if she's a high maintenance type of wife. You could easily have a live-in nanny to take care of the children, to do your cooking and cleaning. Let's say that you're going to commit yourself to building your fortune. You're not going to waste your teens and 20s and 30s of chasing girls. You're going to build something. You're going to build a business. You're going to be a man of means. You're going to put $10 million in the bank. At 40, now you're ready, right? But are you going to risk your fortune and everything you've done with someone that can just on a whim call the cops and put a false accusation on you, and you'll be thrown in jail and lose half of what you have at best? You're going to take that risk? I mean, and to someone, you're going to have a younger girl that doesn't have anything, maybe comes in with $100,000 of student debt loan. I mean, you see where I'm going with this? But look at surrogacy. Have your children that are your own blood, that are separate from this, and then have a live-in nanny that can take care of the things if you're still running your businesses. You just want to have a little help, and you're going to want to have help. And then find a woman, make a commitment to her. Okay, you're my woman, but I'm not necessarily going to get tied up with the state with her. Unfortunately, that's the way you have to look at it, in my opinion. So, I mean, if hope is your plan and you want to go the traditional method and roll the dice with one of these women in hopes that she won't be unhappy in 3, 4, 5 years and take your kids and wreck your life. I mean, if you're 40, 50, can you recover You know, can you build it again? Do you have the energy? Or will that just rip the guts out of you? So these are hard decisions, but that's the world that we live in. Thank you, Robert, for that super chat. Well, I don't mean to blackpill you, but that's just, we have to be honest about the situation. We have a super chat. Shout out to the question tree. Thank you for your generosity. The question tree says, thank you for the Bible study streams. Very much looking forward to more of them. For people like me, it is one of the only sources we can trust to find in God. Yes, I'm going to make every effort to be back. I slept all night before last. I slept all day. I was in bed all day yesterday. Mrs. W was giving me soup, but it was rough. But I'm trying to get back. Pray for me. Goodness. I feel like I missed a super chat. Nope, I think we're good. Ambient temperature 21 degrees. Man flu hits like a truck. Oh, you know it. I'm glad that there's someone there that understands. Yeah, this flu bug was different because it affected my GI tract. I will spare you with the details, but it was treacherous. Yeah, the sleds have more power, but they can't go through the tree. We can side hill. We don't have to just blast up hills. We can go places sleds could never go. Not everything is about speed. We're trying to save the cabin, gentlemen. This is Operation Snow Cabin Save, or whatever. Speed and power. Yes, Jezza, he would disagree. Jezza's all about speed and power. Which, you know, there are no wrong opinions. If you guys want a good laugh, if you're a fan of the old British Top Gear, the Top Gear guys, they traded places with this landscaping show. I don't remember what it's called. Someone's got to look up, get a link, and find out that episode when the three of them were hired as a landscaping contractor. It's super funny. You may have missed it. It's worth the watch. Yeah, you got it. Tristan called it. It's definitely a rock. You were missing them for a while. Oh, I got off the road. I'm all messed up. I just can't get it back to the right spot. The snow's so deep. Why am I a Ford elitist? Well, my family had the first Ford dealership in Oklahoma, and my grandfather worked for them for decades, and my dad was a Ford guy. It's just in the family. That's my camper. Yeah, we got 2 feet of snow here, easy. Big Mama is curled up on my La Fuma chair with a Pendleton blanket by the wood stove. I just filled it up for her. She's warm as a bug in a rug. Oh, we can get a lot of snow. You know, it hasn't happened for years, but you get 10 feet. But usually 3 or 4. Yes, I love Clarkson Farm. That's a really well-produced show. East Coast man would be done by now, yes. Shout out to Mr. Brian Leia coming in with the super chat. Thank you so much, Brian. Let's flip around here. Put some respect upon Brian's name here. Brian says, I do have to say I'm recovering from knee construction surgery. I have not done that, but we do apologize. It looks, from what I understand, it happens pretty quickly. My divorce and the ultimate death of my father have become more religious. I haven't started to pick up a Bible recently. Yeah, you know, there's so much truth in that. You know, it's hard when you're in the weeds. It's hard when it's all happening to you, when your whole world is crashing around you. And so many times in life, those big hits that just really knock you down, they come in a 1-2 punch. You know, to lose your father and then have to go through a major surgery like that, it really gets you, it puts things into perspective, especially when you have to face your mortality. And I don't have a scripture for this, but I will always believe that God will lift his hand of protection for a time to allow this to happen to you, to get your attention. You know, you get to a point where the only unforgivable sin, the good book tells us, is the grieving of the Holy Spirit. And that's been misinterpreted by a lot of people. A lot of people believe that if they curse the Holy Spirit or made some sort of a proclamation that they could actually do this and damn themselves forever. But that's not the way I understand it. The way I understand it is grieving the Holy Spirit is when you just harden your heart to the point that just the trials and suffering of life and the hardships you've had to go through so jades you, makes you so hard that you get to the point where you can't even hear it. You can't even hear that conscience. If you want to talk about the little devil and the angel on your shoulder, you get to the point where you can only hear the negative and the bad side, and you can't even hear God's Spirit anymore. That's when you get to the point where you can no longer be redeemed. God has to just walk away from you because you've built up such a hard crust around you that he can't even penetrate it. So when he can see in his divine wisdom that you are reaching that point, he will cause or allow these things to come upon you to get you to really focus on what's important, to bring you back, one like a Hail Mary even. So I admire guys in that position, even though it doesn't look like there's any hope. That's really when those are the men that are really closest to God, when you get in that situation where you can sincerely come to him because you're in need, and really take a hard look at your life and own the mistakes you've made, and come to the acknowledgement or the realization that I'm in this situation by and large because of my decisions is why I'm here, and not blame someone else. That's when you're really close to God and you're in a position or a time to listen to him. Does that make sense? So put your head down and stay close to God. Don't focus on your troubles, focus on him. And really, in your prayers, ask him to open the scripture to you and to help you understand it. And also pray for him to bring a man of God into your life that can be a help to you, that you can lean on a little bit or share wisdom. And so you don't feel like you're the only one. That's really important too. So God will bring a friend or a mentor into your life that can really help you. And that's really, really important, to start getting yourself plugged in with the body of Christ. The body of Christ traditionally has been, I'll go find it at the church, but unfortunately that's not always the case. And you might find the demons in the church more often than you find the saints. The saints are going to be showing up in areas where you least not expect it. And reality is the internet's going to be that part of that too. You know, God's going to use whatever's at his disposal. So hang in there and use this opportunity to draw close to him. So we thank you for that. Thank you for that, Brian. We have a super chat. Mr. Brendan Bourne coming back in. Thank you for your generosity. Brendan's almost 16 years in as a firefighter EMS, so yeah, he's in the mud. Wishing I had done a trade prior. Thinking of commercial pilot and avionics tech. Which state do you recommend to immigrant? well, I'm partial to the Pacific Northwest. I think that there's still treasures to be found. I would take a look at the Pacific Northwest. This would be Oregon, Washington, Idaho. And I would get an understanding of the Cascade Range. The Cascade Range are peaks of volcanoes that run north to south. And they're a great barrier from all of the rain and the weather from the Pacific Ocean. But there's a little area on the eastern slope of the Cascades which benefits, is nice and green, full of all those cedars and Douglas firs. It's called a transitional forest, when it's transitioning from the forest to the dry high prairies and the real dry, like the dry wheatland that goes to the east. Most of Oregon and Washington is dry wheat and barren. It's the Cascade Range that holds and coddles all that coastal air and all that nice moisture. So there's a sweet spot, a Goldilocks area, we call it, just to the east of the Cascades where we live, where you have that 300 days of sunshine, but you still get the 4 seasons, and you still have rain and green and rivers and moisture and all the things beautiful about the PNW. So, but when you get left of it, the west of it, you still have all that, but then you have the crazy prices and the lunatic politics. So just think of it as like a barrier from the insanity, but you still have all the benefits of the PNW and all the sunshine. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah, shout out to you, man. That's a grind. 16 years in EMS, and with the fire service, you have to be a special kind of patience for that, for sure. We have a super chat from our brother Daniel. Shout out to you, Daniel. Thank you for your generosity. Daniel says, I just got a cold start on my 2D6T with a C9. It was minus 18C. It makes, nothing gives a fizz like that. It do make the heart proud, especially on a Caterpillar. Yes, very nice. You never know. You see, minus 26. You never know with the diesels, because diesel fuel gets really thick when it gets cold like that. And we know the way that diesel fuel burns, there are no spark plugs. It's just super compression. So they have a hard time getting going. I'll tell you what gave me the fizz. Excuse me. I'm literally dying. I forget. But cold starts are cool. Shout out to you. Thank you, gentlemen. Let us proceed. I had to hit the eject button. It's good to see you here, Mr. Mike. No, I have not added salt to my water, but I would probably like that. I'm actually very particular about my salt. Imagine that. I grew up with the hateful Morton's table salt, the iodine infused. I didn't know that you could have salts that actually had different flavors, and how delicious good salt, crystal salt, can be. I mean, my stomach starts rumbling just thinking about it right now. So I'm so into fancy salts am I that my brother-in-law gifted me a 4-pack of some of the best. But if you haven't experienced good salts, oh, they are one of the pleasures of life. Right up there with the Pendleton blanket. So I'm all about that. But I haven't done it. I get enough salt in my food. Watch those cabin windows, indeed. Thank you for the reminder. Toothless is doing well. You know, as the Sweet Loaf, she's so cute. She comes up to me the other day. She loves animals. You know, she's at the stage where a girl wants to be a vet. So she's learning all these little factoids about animals. And so she comes up and says, and I'm petting Toothless, and she says, do you know cats are a burrowing animal? And I said, yes, I did know that they were a burrowing animal. Should we make her a little cozy place to burrow in? And her eyes light up light. There's nothing as bright in this world as the exciting eyes of your little 7-year-old daughter. So we take Toothless and put her up, and we wrap her up inside of a Pendleton blanket. I'm thinking she's going to be running out of there, all tooth and claw, but she didn't. She stayed in there for about 8 hours. So indeed, cats are a burrowing animal. And so this morning, she likes to sleep on the foot of my bed. And so as I walked by to come here to set up the SNOWSTReaM, I took the blanket and I threw it over top of her, and she didn't even stir. So I have no doubt, 1 hour into an 8-hour stint session on my bed wrapped up in a Pendleton blanket. Goodness, we have a super chat. Shout out to Mr. Brendan Bourne coming in strong again. Thank you, Brendan. We sure appreciate that. The Aussie you met at Thunder Ranch loved Oregon. Crater Lake was incredible. Are other states better for tax freedom, politics perspective? Yeah, almost any state. I think Washington right now is considered to be the worst state, Washington State, to move into. I don't know whose axe to grind that is with that particular study, but I wouldn't disbelieve it. And that's primarily talking about just dealing with the expense and the politics and the insane politics that is going through Washington State. Oregon might be a little bit better. The schools are woke and terrible. But really, the way I look at it is if you're a normie and you're just going to come in and move into the suburbs and just live like everyone else does, yeah, probably not advised, but you can control your environment. So, nice thing about Washington, there's no income tax. So you can drive across the border to Oregon for your big purchases, allegedly. In Minecraft, I would do that. Some people do that, not me. I always pay my taxes and never break any laws. So there is that advantage. But you've got draconian gun laws, so that's a disadvantage. But if you can have your own company and you're doing your own thing and you're pretty well independent and you're east of the Cascades, then you're really insulated from that. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. But where do you like? What do you like? Do you like how much land do you want to buy? How much money do you have? The less money you have, the further east you're going to have to go. The more money you have, the more you're going to be able to, dig in at the Goldilocks area, in that transitional forest. A good question. Shout out to you, Brendan. What you do, Brendan, is especially if you're from out of town, you got to travel there and drive through it. You got to see it. If you could see it in 2 seasons, winter and summer. You might realize, I'm in a place where I don't get any sunshine. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm miserable, or I've got scurvy, right? So you have to be careful of these things. Or it's so hot that you feel like, that you're enduring, the torture of the damned. So you have to see it in the worst of each. Travel and look at them. And once you kind of get a rough idea what you like, put a pin in the map. Also, think about access to supplies and airports. How far are you willing to travel to an airport? We didn't want to have to travel more than about 90 minutes because we travel a lot. So you have to consider this. If you have a woman in your life, she's going to be more social. You want to make sure that there are going to be other women like-minded so they can get together and have their book clubs and do their volunteer work and the things that they like to do. They're more social. So don't look to that as well. So it all depends. It's a complex question. Let us proceed. Well, it doesn't really matter what the Christian girl thinks. I don't want to be a total misogynist here, but here's the truth of the matter. If you want to have a traditional marriage that's Christ-focused, then you have your instructions. The man is the head of the household. And the woman you want is going to trust her man to make the right decision. And so if you want to set your mind on doing something, and you decide, hey, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to partner with God to do it, then she needs to be on board. This is not a committee. You've committed to take care of her, protect her, especially if she's going to be pregnant and go through the vulnerabilities that come with that. That's a small thing. You need to respect that. So heavy wears the crown of the man that takes on the traditional role of a husband and father, especially if he's going to have a stay-at-home wife. You know, good book says, count the cost before you put your hand to the plow. Are you ready for that? Paul says it's better for you to stay single. You're going to be a whole lot less trouble and aggravation. And you know, I know that's an old-fashioned way of thinking, but it might be a better option for some of you. Come on now, we're preaching here. Oh, the snow is beautiful. It is a very chilly 21 degrees. It is light and fluffy. And this is the food that the snowblower likes to eat. It's Kobe beef to the snowblower right now. Kobe beef with béarnaise sauce and goose grease. We're cooking with fish grease, as Coach Greg Adams would say. No, we're cooking with hot fish grease. That's what we're cooking with. Getting ready to cross the culvert. He who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Something about a goatskin Bible. Yeah, that is so true. I was thinking about that. You know, that's a very good point. I'm going to speak to that. Yes. Donko, Dad C10 is a man of God right here, in a man after my own heart, and I'm going to recognize him. So Dad C10 says, talk about the fifth, something about the goatskin Bible, black bison, JK boots, and hot coffee all together. Looking forward to getting back into our morning together. Yeah, and I think maybe you're going where I'm going with that. So we've got, back in the old days, when the children of Israel were camped in the wilderness, they'd set up the tabernacle and they were doing the sacrificial system. And annually, they would have a ceremony where the chiefs, the sins of the people, would be put upon the high priest, and he would go in and minister at the Ark of the Covenant before the Shekinah, in the very presence of God. And there was this lengthy and detailed ritual, cleansing ritual that the priest would have to go through. But it was so dangerous for the high priest to go into the Shekinah, in the actual presence of God. Can you imagine being God's people and he's dwelling with you? His very presence is there in the pillar of smoke and fire. I mean, it just gives the fizz, just thinking about it, makes my hair stand on end. But he's right there with him. The chief priest, his garment, how it was made was very particular. It had to be of certain linen, wove a certain way. But on the hem of the garment were little bells made out of, to look like pomegranates, and they would jingle and tinkle. And when he would move, when he would put this garment on, he would move, you could hear the tinkling of these bells, these pomegranates. Not only that, but the lesser priests, the ones that were not going into the presence of God, would be protected by the veil. They were on the outside. They would tie a rope around his ankle, and they're listening. So when he's in there doing this ministry, if he wasn't completely purified, if he didn't do everything according to the ritual of purification laid out in the law of Moses, he wouldn't be able to exist in the Shekinah. He would be consumed and destroyed. And those guys that were his buddies, they didn't want to have anything to do with going in there, and so they would drag him out so they didn't have to go in there and die themselves. This is how powerful the whole thing was. But long story short, the end of the ritual was the sins were put upon a goat, the scapegoat. That's where it would come with. And a certain man would be chosen. He would lead the goat out into the wilderness, meaning, or the meaning being symbolism of being separated from God. Now you're not under the perfection. You've been banished. You're out in the wilderness to die and be consumed by a wild animal. So that's where God would put the sins. But that goat skin is a remembrance. That's why it's on some Bibles of what are the wages of sin. That someone has to die, even if you don't do it. Because you sin openly, you've created a problem. That sin needs to be dealt with. And either you will pay it yourself, or you put that upon Christ. That's why he made the perfect sacrifice, so you don't have to bear it. Because if you had to bear it, you would have to be sent out as the scapegoat. Does that make sense? So having something made out of goat skin, when you touch it, it's a very powerful memory to you of the wages of sin are death. And when it comes to, for me, I was thinking I'm wearing these Samurai 25-ounce salvage denim right now. And, the tag that they put like on the back of Levi's, for Levi's, it's just some fake synthetic thing now. But back in the day, that would have always been leather. And on the Japanese pants, the nice ones like the Samurais or the Iron Hearts or the Sugar Canes, there are other brands, Buzz Rickson. They're not going to do that. They use genuine leather, of course. But these in particular, for the 25-year anniversary, I'm like one of those nerds that collects Funko figures. They made it out of lamb's wool or lamb's leather, and it crinkles up and it's completely different. But it's strange because I don't know why, but I have a much more, my physical reaction to it when I see it, when I touch it, it is very different than when I touch natural leather. Maybe because I'm not accustomed to lamb's wool or lamb's leather. And the skin of a cow, or the butchering of a cow, I've been so desensitized that I don't think about it because I have it in my shoes and my belts and everything, holsters. But something about the lamb skin, I almost treat it reverently because it reminds me of one of the names of Christ is the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. It's that lamb is symbolic to what Christ had to do, and it's like just a real punch in your face when you see it. Like, oh yeah, this is real. The wages of sin are death. I don't know, just kind of a fun fact. I don't know. Do you feel that way, or am I just some sort of a weirdo, some Christian nationalist fundamental weirdo, making up things that don't exist? Brennan Kogan, shout out to you. Thank you for that. A very generous super sticker. I sure do appreciate that. Very generous of you. And Hayden Cades. Shout out to you, Hayden Cades. Mr. Wranglerstar. Just wanted to pick your mind on West Virginia. Have you ever been here? Born and raised here, and I think you would love it. Hard-working connection to nature. Yeah, we were over in your neck of the woods. Mr. Brian and I, were over there for that, when we were helping out with that Hurricane Helene deal. And I had my opinions of the South, and I would always troll them and make fun of them. When the East Coast guy would talk about the mountains, I was like, bro, just sit down. You don't even know what you're talking about. We have mountains out here 14,000 feet. We're not talking about your sledding hill. And so I had my bigotry was well entrenched. When I went over there and got to go up the haulers and see the rivers and see the land and meet the people, very impressed. My impression of it was a lot of the areas that I saw were pride of ownership, where people kept their lawns mowed. Apparently they all mow their lawn the same day on Sunday. Everyone does it. It was really odd. So all sorts of different customs. You have to remember, gentlemen, how big the USA is. If you want a really cool image, go and look up, take the USA and overlay it over Western Europe. It goes all the way down, like Florida goes all the way down to Syria. And you take that, in that big of space in Europe, how many different cultures and languages and customs. Those people are as different as white is from black. They don't get along, never had, right? But here we can take America that has the same size, because it's so huge and we have so much in common. We speak a common language. It really is tremendous when you think about it. So don't be fooled to think with such a large area that Pacific Northwest man would come down to West Virginia or North Carolina and just shake his head about how strange your customs are and how you do things, and vice versa, right? So my opinion of Southern man in Appalachia was greatly improved. Now I don't think you should be putting Mountain Dew in the bottles of your infants so that their teeth are all rotted out by the time they're 4. But if you stop doing that and a few other things, I think you'd be all right in my book. But shout out to Southern man. Hold on here. Let me go on here. Hayden Keynes, have you ever been born and raised here? And I think you would love it. Yeah, I did love it. We had a really nice time, and we met some of the nicest people ever, and would feel very welcome to go back. Yeah, I had a good experience there, and the country is beautiful. I went up the holler while I was there even. All right, let's see. Let us proceed. And I would also, I have something in common with Southern Man, is I also don't need Neil Young or to hear his music ever again. So the Southern Man and the Pacific Northwest Man, we don't need him around anymore either. All right, well, that's going to be good for Mr. Peter. I'm going to have to go remove the plank out of my own eye now. Neil Young, what a dweeb. He got all up on his high horse when Joe Rogan went to do his show at Spotify, and got up and grandstanded. Oh, no one's gonna listen. I'm boycotting. No one's gonna listen to my news or my stuff on Spotify ever again. And then no one cared. And Joe Rogan's doing good on Spotify. Neil Young comes back with a whimper, with his tail between his legs, puts his music back on Spotify. Man of conviction, typical West Coast California hippie. They're the worst. Just reprehensible. Leonard Skinner, they knew it. They knew he was no account. Boy, that little goblin, what's his name? Marco Rubio, that little goblin. Man, oh man, he is stepping and fetching for Big Daddy, isn't he? I have to say he's getting it done, but he has got in line. He's like a little dog with his tail wagging, sitting at the feet of his master. But keep an eye on him. He's not to be trusted. Keep a close eye on that little goblin. He's on the short leash. You bet he is. Goodness, I hope RFK gets on the. Well, here's a little fun. This is going to be an activity that we can participate in. We like to have fun, and we like to troll a little bit, right? All right. So, here's what I want you to mention in the comments. I want you to think long and hard. What would be your dream cabinet pick for Big Daddy to head up the ATF? Let me know. Bring it in the comments. Who would be the absolute Giga Chad to sit up there in charge of the ATF and be like Christ, cleansing the temple, overturning the money changers' tables? Oh, yes, I would throw my hat in the ring. Oh my goodness. I would lay waste. I would take a flamethrower up into that. Oh my goodness. Oh, the changes that I would make. You know what I would do? Here's what I would do. I'll tell you. Once I cleansed the temple and threw off the shackles, I would seek funding. And I would see to it that every man, when he turned, would say 16, I would implement hunting and marksmanship clubs and groups, organization where the old heads could teach. I would open up archery to all of that. I would put up personal armories. You gotta wait for your choices, because I'm grandstanding here. I would bring back the local armories where you had a couple Humvees there. You got Maud Gooses. You've got the military, maybe a water trailer, maybe even a little drag behind field piece. You know what I'm saying? Some retrieval equipment, a couple deuce and a halves. You know, maybe Unimogs. We get Unimogs, start producing Unimogs here in the States. Get all set up so all towns have a small armory, and weekly, this is a men's only club as well. Weekly, the men go there, maybe monthly, once a month, and you get together and you train. That's where you keep the night vision. You know, not everyone can have everything. Everyone's got a locker, and you're part of the local militia, right? And then afterwards on Sunday is the big barbecue, paid for by the Big Daddy would hook us up with some more money, and we could have a big barbecue, an open bar, whatever you want, and the war band could meet, and our families would all be together. This would be amazing. That'd be the center. You know, like how the left has taken over the libraries and all these white Western and privileged West liberal women like to congregate there. This would be like that, but it'd be a masculine version of that. You would be issued an AR-15 fully auto with grenade launcher that you would have at your home, and a safe, and all the ammunition you would need. Oh goodness, what we could do, gentlemen. All right, I'm ready to see your pics. Let us proceed. And then when you were married and when you got land in your own home, then you would be issued your own M249, a family service weapon. I would just have 3 or 4 things like we discussed. I don't need to. I would keep it simple. This would be my platform. There would be grenades at the armory, field artillery, a tank. Well, not a tank, a Bradley. That would be Proho's command vehicle. Taylor Swift. God forbid. Joe Biggs. Oh, he's salty. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, let's say, I would have to say, if it wasn't me, it's got to be a J6er. We're gonna have take resumes, and one of the must-have qualifications is you have to have been incarcerated. Yes. Maybe Alex Jones. Ted Nugent. Oh, yeah, Uncle Ted. I would go for that. I could definitely get behind that. Ted Nugent, that's a good choice. Brandon Herrera, I don't know who that is. Don't know Anthony either. Mr. Peter. Yes. He's a Mexican, so he's not going to be eligible. No, we don't want no Kid Rock. Goodness. You're going to put a musician ahead of an important position like that? Get serious. Isaac from T-Rex Arms. Oh, yes. Yes. There we go. Oh, yes. That's an excellent choice. I'd actually say that I would even bow out for Isaac. I would just give it to him. He would be the better man. He'd be a far better man than me to do that. I could take him like a minor position, like as one of his appointees, a probationary, to handle the Inquisition. Oh no, Mr. Bryan Mr. Bryan is very intellectual. We need to put him in a more important position, like signals reconnaissance or something like that, or game theory.
We don't want to waste his talents
on knuckle dragging. We could put Clint Smith up in there. I would feel pretty good about that. I think Clint Smith might even be better than Isaac. I don't know who Brandon Herrera is. If that's some baseball or sports ball reference, man, don't bring that here. Rojo does not follow sports ball. Gun tuber? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, any gun tuber would be better than what we have. Hickok, how about we put Hickok up in there? Oh, John from SOE, yes. That's the best so far. Yeah, he's still young and vigorous. Oh man, can you imagine? He would tear those dudes up. I would want to be in there. I would be in charge of making the video of John Willis walking in with a mandate from Big Daddy to cleanse the ATF building. Oh, can you imagine that? That would be some good TV. Boy, if Big Daddy was smart, he would be sending some conservative YouTubers in with the camera to witness the rats leaving the ship. That would be the best. That'd be the best TV in the history of the world. I would pay-per-view to see that. Has anyone heard any updates on Tulsi, or RFK on their trials, their witch hunt? Yeah, those filthy demons are slow walking it. Tulsi votes on Monday. Of course, what they'll do is they'll work all weekend trying to pull some scam to get some activist judge to gum up the works. But I think God's on his side. So all of their scheming, it won't account to anything. I like RFK. I can't listen to him, so I put him on subtitles, but I think he's a good man. I don't know about that coffee additive. I would imagine that's probably one of the ingredients into that hateful coffee mate that East Coast man likes so well. East Coast man, he's so backwards and lacking in just common couth and the finer things of life that he gets his coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. Oh goodness, he puts the flavored coffee mate on there, which is just straight up death. I'd rather spend the night in that Chernobyl death claw than I would drinking one sip of East Coast man's coffee mate. Unbelievable. How he gets on and takes care of himself without killing himself is proof that God is real. I don't mean to be irreverent. Now Starbucks is trash as well. I'm of all people chief of sinners when it comes to that. Starbucks is a Seattle company. It is our greatest shame and embarrassment. I do apologize for all Washingtonians. But that's not what we drink when we're here. That's like being, that's like a Mexican drinking a Corona. You know, we laugh at you. Goodness. We have a super chat from, it got by me there, from Robert John Thomas. Thoughts on the Gaza Strip, the modern state of Israel? Oh. So here's the Christian perspective. So, it's hard to say. So many of the things that I thought were foundational, now I'm starting to take a second look at and question. I.e., who are the Jews? Are the Jews the ones that are occupying the old Holy Land right now? Some say yes, some say no. Depending on what your definition of the Jews, right? So I don't know. But we have a prophecy that goes way back that when, was it Ishmael and, was it Isaac? I forget, when the two brothers fought, that one of the curses, when Hagar was ran into the woods with her baby to die, one of the curses upon, and this was the father of the Arabs, was that these two people, a prophecy, will never get along. Meaning that the Jews and the Gentiles, my phone's not charging here, will never get along. They'll always, the Arabs will be a wild ass of a man, and it will always be at contention with his brother who is Jewish. So the prophecy was there that these two people will never get along, and every U.S. president from in modern time has always tried to make it the crowning jewel of his presidency would have been to bring peace to the Middle East. And that's one of the first things they all try, whether it be, Nixon or Carter or Obama, the Bushes, all of them. First term, I'm going to go and have peace in the Middle East, but it always fails, right? So I trust God more than these men, and the fact that they go against the prophecy to try to make something happen that never will is always confusing to me. Because if you were a thinking, reasoning man, you would know your Bible and you would know the history of these people. But who are the Jews, right? Now we come to that. So I don't know for sure. The Donald is a good businessman. Your Donald is what my dad used to call a guy that is a bullshitter. Now, that can be bad and can be good, but usually some of the most memorable people in our life that were larger than life, they were hyperbolic. They were over the top. They would enhance or tell a tall tale or a fish story. But many of those people, we would love them. And, they kind of did it with a twinkle in their eye and a tongue in the cheek, that sort of thing, at least the ones that were the better of them. So you always kind of knew, right? But that was part of the charm and the joy of it. And President Trump is very much like that. He's a deal maker. He's a New York hard-bitten guy. He grew up in the construction trades. Yes, he's always been a man of privilege, but he's been down in the trenches. And you talk about East Coast Union, journeyman contractor. I've worked with those guys. They are as tough as nails. And you better have your big boy pants on when you're going to go tangle with those guys, and they'll just eat you up. So Donald Trump is a hard man. He gets it. He's got the golden toilet seat, but he's also been down in the weeds with those guys. So he's one of those guys, and that's how you work with those guys. The misogyny and the way you talk and the being relatable. That's where he comes from. He's a day walker, a guy that can walk two worlds. So the more genteel in the media, they don't get that. They never will. They don't know what locker room talk is like. They don't know what construction guys, what they're talking about, what they're like when they're getting their big gulp and their hot dog at 7-Eleven on the way to work, their sleeve of donuts, right? I mean, it's just the way that it is. What we say on the internet's very different than what we say in trusted company. That's always been the way that it is. So when a little bit of that gets out, the left falls upon it, they clutch pearls like, my bigotry. So don't pay any attention to that. So that's where he's coming from. So he needed a shakeup. He likes to be in the spotlight. He likes to keep people on the back foot. And man, throwing that hand grenade in the middle of the room, I was watching it live when it happened, and I had to rewind it. I'm like, excuse me? There's no way I could have heard that he just said that we'll take possession of it. I actually scrubbed it back, and I looked at Mrs. W. I'm like, I can't believe he just said that. And, you know, she just blew it off as you know, him just being a big talker. But I don't know if he's serious or if that was just a hand grenade to mix things up, because, you know, the whole thing has become stagnant. You need to look at it from a different perspective. We need that problem is going to be solved not in traditional ways. So again, I'm not a foreign diplomat. I don't understand these things, but my goodness, I am for shaking it up and taking a different way to look at it. And I am for, it's terrible what the Israelis have done to the Palestinians. I mean, to always take one side and think that there aren't innocent parties involved that have suffered from this makes you a monster. You know, everyone's got a gripe. So I don't know what the solution is, but I do commend him for at least trying to look at another option. So I would say that. But I think that's a good question. But I'm not gonna comment on things I don't understand. Let us proceed. Starting to look like a revolution, is it not? I'd like to see how much money the Rolling Stone got for hitting that, or writing that hit piece on me. That'd be interesting if I could look it up someday. Tulsi Gabbard, I don't know a lot about her. She looks like she's got that Jezebel spirit, though, but I could be wrong. But as far as RFK, I think he's a good dude. He seems like an honorable man. I'd like to see him get a try. That dirt doesn't count, so don't start typing. You step away from the keyboard. That was a pile of grass from pressure washing. I'm on asphalt right now. I don't want to see it. Probably deleted your computer if you were trying to claim being the first to see me blowing gravel and dirt. Oh, thank you. Yeah, fuel gauge, we're at a quarter. I'm not going to sweat it till we get in the red, but do remind me, please. Thank you. We burned about a quarter of a tank so far. I should have blown yesterday. I let it. It's really deep here. Yeah, Cash Patel will cleanse the temple as well. That's another one I would hope to see. Thank you, Taylor. Yep, we have a quarter of a tank. We're not ready to fill up yet. Well, I missed Super Chat's gearhead, did I? Well, I'll fix that. I sure did. Goodness. Hold on. Shout out to Gearhead Ted. He flipped around here. Thank you, brother, for that. Appreciate that Super Chat so much. Gearhead writes, donations to the Skid Steer Fuel Fund. Well, thank you. Are you still considering buying an 80s or 90s Toyota pickup, and what equipment features would you want? Yeah, I would like that very much. I would like to have an 89, an 88. I think I'd like to have an 88 or newer, somewhere in that 86, 87, 88, or even older. Even the previous generation would probably be fine. It would be a 4x4, and I would prefer the king cab, but it wouldn't be a deal breaker if I couldn't get it. And I would prefer a long bed, but it wouldn't be a deal breaker if I couldn't get it. But if I could find a king cab 4x4 that was all original, that would be my grail truck. Thank you, brother, for that. All right, let us proceed. Yes, I do watch the Baja 1000. I'm a big fan of that. It was a dream. One of my things that I will have regret not doing is at least making an attempt to ride it or on a team. I've even toyed with the idea of doing an Ironman, but after my last motorcycle crash, I don't have the desire that I once had, but I really love to watch it. Dirt bikes, of course. I like to watch Johnny Walker. You know, the great Honda teams. Dudes are straight up Chads. Heroes. One thing I'm trying to get out to do is I want to go to the Isle of Man and go watch the TT and I want to take Jack and Mrs. W. So we're trying to figure out, it's not something we want to take the Sweet Loaf on. We're trying to figure out if maybe we could drop her off in Amsterdam with my brother-in-law, and then the three of us go or not. But I really want to go see the TT. Those are truly, of all men that currently live, those are the bravest of all men. The guys that ride the British TT on the Isle of Man. If you want a good documentary, go watch. There's one on YouTube. It's amazing. Go watch it. Go learn about that. Amazing. go fishing. The Sweet Loaf really likes fishing, so I was thinking about maybe getting a small boat. And we'll be doing some trout fishing. We'll most likely be up at the lake up north of here the day that they, the first day of the spring when they open up the season. So we'll bring you along for that. All right, Jim, thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Live long and prosper. Oh, well, you're free to leave, you're free to stay. Yeah, if I got a boat, I've actually been thinking about that for a lot for the last year or so. What I'd like to have would be a minimum of a 12-footer and maximum of a 14-footer aluminum semi-V welded if possible. Like Kalama. My dream boat would be a Kalama made in down in Oregon, I believe. It's a small welded, super skookum commercial grade boat. And I would have 2 engine options on it. I would do a, it depends on how much I could get away with, but I might over-engine it. If I could get a jet pump on a Mercury with a 40 horse, whatever the smallest jet pump outboard I could get. I used to be in this because I was an outboard motor mechanic and avid fisherman for so long. So I know about these things. But I would get a 14-foot that I could lift up and put in the back of my truck without a trailer. That's important. I'm trying to think while I'm working here. No console, lightweight. And then I would put a 40 horse Merc on it with a jet pump. That way I could run in less than 6 inches of water. You know, it's not going to be a full-on snake boat, river jet boat, but I'd be able to run up ripples and fish my local streams up and down. I would put like a 9.9 kicker on there for trolling, so I could troll for fall and winter spring Chinook and steelhead in the big rivers like the Willamette or the Columbia. And then I would also have a nice little electric motor, like a Minn Kota or something equivalent, for high alpine trout fishing in the rivers up in the mountains, because they're electric motor only, or rowboats, for trolling deep lake trout and rainbows. You can take the big motors off, or just take the big motors off and then run up there and launch and do that. So that'd be a really versatile boat. So that's what I'd like to have. Goodness, we have a super chat from Overton sponsor. Shout out to you, Overton, coming in. Between you and the Overton Windex, skookum has been added to this Ohio man's vocabulary. Yes, skookum is it's an American Indian word, believed, everyone takes credit for it, but believed, let me turn this off, to be, to come out of Seattle, Pacific Northwest, maybe Vancouver, up in that area, where the early settlers and loggers intermingled with the indigenous peoples, right? And skookum was one of the Indian needs, was what that kind of had a meaning of everything is good or all right, or it's all work, everything's working. that whole deal. So that kind of started in the log, kind of came down from the loggers, and then the loggers were the first ones to start and to really be the fire for the current wildland firefighting movement. They came out of logging. That's why they share so many things, and they always work together. So there's kind of a symbiotic relationship. All of your professional fallers falling deadly snags, or your equipment operators that are cat skinning or running feller bunchers on the fire ground, these guys are all professional loggers as well as firefighters. So skookum is a term that's very dear to our hearts, those of us that are in that environment. Just like, to get really, really dialed in regionally, just like I'm very proud, and I think it's an interesting thing that people that grew up in the Willamette Valley and were really into salmon and steelhead fishing, we use left-handed reels. So like Shimano, back in the day, Shimano and Garcia would ship a disproportionate amount of left-handed reels to those of us that like to drift rivers for spinners, for winter steelhead, or we always use left-handed reels. A very small regional thing that's not the typical anywhere else in the world. It's really interesting, these things. So I always use left-handed reels, and that's it's kind of like we're so devoid of culture in our country, and a lot of it's got to do with the reason why is because we're just so big. But I would imagine being a Scotsman and coming from a place, a Highland Scotsman, that had a particular pattern of wool that they wear. What do you call that? The tartan, or is one example, where you can look at that and see, oh, he comes from the McWhatever family, or he comes from this family. You could tell them immediately from their dress or the way they speak or the dialect. I mean, you go to Britain and you can pick up immediately who's a Cockney, right, or who's from the East End, right? You can tell. But America doesn't have a lot of those. So to have a word or part of the language that you've contributed, or the fun thing with the left-handed fishing reels, embrace those. Just like East Coast man should embrace his Dunkin' Donuts, right? He has that. It's special to him, and right or wrong, let him have it, right? Let him have it. It makes him happy. All right, let us proceed. Plaid, yes, thank you, plaid. Yes, he likes his tools in a 5-gallon bucket with a bucket boss. He likes that. It works for him. He likes his Harbor Freight. He likes his seed oils, and to eat margarine instead of butter. His bucket boss overfloweth with cheap and mostly broken tools. There's no 10mm to be found. His 1/2-inch wrench is box end only, because he used the wrong end and snapped the tip off, so he only could use the box end, which brings all sorts of inconvenience, because it is the most needed wrench in his bucket boss. He's got some old vice grips, and the blue rubber's fallen off and only on one side of the handle, so it's uncomfortable to him, and cold when it's 50 below in his godforsaken terrain. I wish I had a Snap-on truck. I've been packing around broken tools for 2 decades because I can't find one. The last one I found, I went and found him, and he took my solder gun. No, he came up here because I bought a toolbox from him. He came up here, delivered the toolbox, took my soldering gun to warranty, and then ghosted me. I'm telling the truth about East Coast Man. East Coast Man also has a good mix, probably 50-50. No, 30 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. So he's got 1/3 mechanic tools in his bucket boss that overfloweth, 1/3 carpentry tools, and 1/3 plumbing tools, and always 3 half-used rolls of plumber's tape. And he's got a blue roll of Teflon tape with the cover on it, but it's long since empty, but he carries it around anyway. You see, he used up all of his Teflon the last time because he wound it on the wrong way. He went counterclockwise, and so he ended up using twice as much he would normally have to use, and so he used the end of the roll and he never thought to replace it. Goodness, we have a super chat from Brad COV. Shout out to you, Brad. Thank you for your generosity. Brad says, it might be the wrong forum to ask this type of question, but can you give a struggling guy some advice on how to become his own man? That's a very deep question. That's a whole video to itself, is it not? I went through life on easy mode when it comes to this question, so I don't. I'm like someone who's never drank alcohol and wants to lecture someone on why he shouldn't drink, who's been struggling with it for 3 decades, right? Kind of rings hollow. So I am coming from that perspective because I got the ritual when I was 12. And that's what really messes you up, is if you don't get the masculine ritual when you're in that development stage, usually around the 12. The reason why our Jewish friends have their bar mitzvah, their sons at 12, is because they know this, that there needs to be a transition from a day where you stop becoming a child and you come into manhood. Or at least, if not manhood, given the respect of a man, that you are well on your way. And that's when that transition is made, is at 12. It's kind of ironically, I guess, the age for getting your hunter safety license is also at 12 in this country. That's when you can go and take your hunter safety course, and if you pass it, now you can officially go and pull a hunting tag and carry your own rifle with the supervision of an adult. But that's a big moment. So that's when you get your thinking, now you're no longer whining and complaining and being a mama's boy, hiding behind the apron strings of your mother. But now you are spending more time with dad. Now you're expected to hold the dreaded flashlight, which is, of all childhood traumas, there is no greater. Any one of you Gen Xers that had a boomer dad, put 7s in the chat if you had the holding the light experience with a boomer father, usually under a great struggle, like something broke in the middle of the night and he had to get up out of bed to fix type of experience. If you had that one, my dad was 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", and 245, with about a 50-inch shoulder. So I had that ritual. That was the first time that I got my own boots. I left. It was even better that my dad didn't go. My dad stayed behind. I went with my grandfather for the very first time with the men on the elk hunt. This was men's only. So in the patriarchal Christian cult that I grew up women didn't come on the elk hunt. That was just for men. Women would come on the deer hunt because that was earlier in the season and the conditions weren't that difficult. But the elk hunt happened at the end of October, and that's when you could be in 20 below zero, and that was not for women. So it was quite an honor to be invited to part of this, and the preparation and putting your boots on and getting your boots for the first time. You've got your first rifle, you've been to the rock pit, you laid down and shot that frightful thing, which at 12 years old, a 30-06 or 308 or anything, it's a pretty traumatic thing to experience, right? So there's a lot going into the hunt, and there's also a lot of expectation because now you're in with the old men. And bless them, the way that they did it, that was back in the day when big groups could go together. We would show up to the elk camp and there might be 30 dudes there, from 12 like you are up to guys still hunting in their 80s that have been hunting there since the end of World War II. And everyone's living in communal tents, and there's a common eating area, and so here you have 2 weeks of this experience of a 12-year-old of sitting on a wood block next to the wood stove, listening to the stories of the men of the great hunt, one of which you're about to participate on the next morning when you're going to get up at 3:30 with the men and go out and carry your first rifle and potentially kill the biggest animal that anyone's ever killed. You know, so it's like, just thinking about it now, I wish I would have savored it more than I did. I just did not know. I thought that this was normal. And that very day, you know, and to be able to shoot your first animal and have the pat on the back from the men that you respect and admire more than anything, that have killed 50, 60, 70 animals, you know, it's an amazing experience. And then just this experience of having your grandfather make you butcher your own animal and have to put your hand in those hot guts and to smell the metallic smell of the blood, of the throat that you just cut, spraying out all over, and to feel that on your hands, and the aroma of it'll etch itself on your mind like nothing else you've ever experienced. It's like an OJ type of moment, right? If you didn't have these experiences, or you didn't have these men to bring you into it, you become retarded in that sense. Not, I don't mean like retarded in, you are behind in your ability to know definitively, when do I stop becoming a boy and when I'm a man. So that's why you have so many young men that are 18, 19, 20, even into their 30s, that are still dressing and running around and acting like they're in high school, because they didn't have that ability to make that transition. So it's a difficult thing. It will hinder anyone who doesn't have it, in my opinion. You can get it back, but you have to claim it yourself. But you'll always be lacking of something. Just like a little kid that learns to swim or to ski when they're 6, it's very different than someone that learns when they're 40 or 50. You know, it's a muscle that you can only train when you're little. So I don't want to doom and gloom you, but you can get back in that. But you really have to surround yourself with guys that are stronger, better, more masculine than you, and that will rub off on you. And you might have to get out of your comfort zone. Find a sport or an activity that really draws these type of men. Off-road racing, you know, comes to mind. Any sort of off-road motorcycle riding, especially dirt bikes. These are blue-collar guys. These are masculine guys. They can be hard to be around sometimes. There's a lot of alpha guys in this scene, especially when you get over to the racing side of it. But what you'll find is you'll just find super high testosterone guys that are often into hunting and other sports, other things, and just be around that. And, you know, the best thing I can do is to go out snow biking. I'm already tentative about it anyway, because I picked up the sport a little bit late, and I find it really terrifying because the environment is so dangerous. But I always would prefer to ride with someone, and will really push myself up to be much better if I ride with professional guys, you know, guys that are just crazy race car driver types, you know, those guys. And then I will up my game. Yeah, half the time I'm scared and I'm way out of my comfort zone, but I'm also showing myself that I can do things I didn't know that I could do. I didn't know that I could butcher an animal with a hatchet and a knife until I went with a guy that showed me how to do it. So I think you really need to get in communities of, I'm not talking these fake alpha male guys, these guys that have daddy issues and they over exaggerate with getting big in the gym and giving advice online. There's a lot of these guys here that are not real men, even though they look like it. They're still children, they're still struggling. You have to be careful, because giving of advice and the giving of therapy or therapists, I've always believed that therapists are the ones that are the most insane. And for them to be giving advice is complete waste of time and money. I believe they get into therapy because it makes them feel better to be around people that are more messed up than them. And then they can have a little peace thinking, well, look how normal I am. Look how crazy this person is. You know, I may have had problems A, but this guy has problem A, B, C, and Z. And so I can feel a little bit, I mean, it's really kind of creepy when you think about it. I don't know that they're the ones to go to advice to. But what do I know? Let us proceed. I guess Brett is kind of thinking as I'm going here. One thing that'll help you is to really sit down tonight and think long and hard about, what is something you're really afraid to do? Maybe something you admire, but you think, oh, I could never do that. And that could be like, one thing for me that was like that was being able to cut a dovetail joint in carpentry by hand traditionally. I never thought I'd be able to do that. When I first did it, I couldn't believe it. And the satisfaction and pride and joy that came from that was really life-changing for me, even though it was a relatively a small thing. That was something I was overcoming. I had to work hard and practice and fail many times to make that happen. So I would really take a look at something you think that you could never do. Maybe it's buy a new snowmobile or a dirt bike and make it happen. Still meet all your obligations, but even though you're afraid of it, overcome the fears and go do it. And for me, a big thing that I overcame that has given me so much joy is having the courage to go get my dad to Mexico and get my teeth fixed. That really was, if I were to give myself the same advice and sit and would have thought, what is it that you need to get done and what you need to do that's essential that you're not doing, that's affecting you in a negative way? And it could be a physical thing. This thing that we're talking about could be, hey man, I put on weight and I've been fat for 10 years and it's affecting my health and it's affecting, and I just don't think I could ever lose it. Well, there what dragon you got to slay. So it's not always mental. But as far as when it comes to fixing mental, it's to have a purpose or to be able to have something that really focuses your attention. And when you're doing something that you're afraid of, and for me, that could be riding snow biking or going out of bounds, going really far out there in places I don't know. Man, I don't have time to be sad about anything or feel sorry for myself. I got my hands full of just surviving or dealing with the complexity of the thing that's right in front of me. So really think long and hard what that may be, what dragon you need to slay, and get about slaying it. And be single-minded on it. Nothing else matters. Take care of your family, take care of your work, your obligations. Those will always be with you. But put on the armor of God and start gearing up for that mission, whatever that may be. That might be just getting yourself a pair of shorts and walking shoes and getting up an hour early before work and putting down a mile and a half, regardless of the weather, right? Well, who can give an amen to that? Guys, I'll tell you, I just watched a TikTok video, so powerful, of a guy. He is like can you picture a Reddit bug man? Who knows what a Reddit bug man is? I'm gonna fight through the delay to see how plugged into pop culture the warband really is. I'll let you look it up on your own time. That's an assignment. Look up Reddit bug man. But this dude's I could be wrong, I judge people too harshly, but I get that impression. He's working at a desk for like a big national tire company, like America's Best Tire. And he's sitting in his Polo. He's 31, 32. He's got the double chin. He's not morbidly obese, but he's pretty gross. He's like a walrus, right? I mean, he's not looking good. He's not getting any chicks. And he's eating unhealthy, and he's living in a crappy apartment, and he's barely getting by, and he's sad, man. He's not tall, he's not handsome, he's overweight, and he is absolutely miserable. This is a guy that's on the verge of deleting himself, right? What's the point? No family, no girlfriend, no hope. The economy sucks. He opens up his first TikTok video, and he's at work, sitting in this miserable area with the fluorescent lights, and he looks at the camera and he says, I am going to pull out the money from my 401k. I am going to buy a 25-foot sailboat, and I'm going to sail around the world. I don't know anything about boats. I don't know anything about sailing. I don't know about anything about any of this, but I can't live like this any longer. And has started to make a video where he actually did it. He quit his job. He knows nothing, man. He doesn't know tools. He doesn't know engines. He's a normie. But he bought this old boat, and he's rehabbing it, and he's making preparations, and he's making content of his first. He's going to sail from Oregon to Hawaii to start his whole trip. Bro, I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. And that's, you want to talk about how do you get out of the rut? How do you decide to stop being a boy and become a man? This guy is becoming a man before everyone in the picture. He's doing it. And just imagine the courage that takes to do that, something like that. There's guys that grew up sailing and have much bigger boats than that would hire a captain to make that journey. Perilous. The Pacific Ocean, I mean, goodness, what's scarier than that? My goodness. That's what it took for him to answer that question. All right, let's go over to the main body here. Guess I need to clear out the front. I don't have any update to give other than it's the best engine I've ever had. But I have been looking at the Whipple superchargers. But unfortunately, you see, if it had been Proho 48 months ago, there would have been one in the garage. But now that we're on no spend, I can only look. Of all things, what an unnecessary purchase. Of course, you would have had to include a full titanium exhaust, new exhaust with that as well. If you're going to do it, right? Might as well while we're at it. Yeah, Luke. So there's been 3 orders of the final order of patches. So the ones that if you don't have yours yet, you're in the third group. We'll be here shortly, and they will go out. I apologize for the delay. So if you haven't got yours yet, that means you're in the third group, providing I got your self-addressed letter. Actually, when I get out of here today, that was on my to-do list, is to double check on that, see if I can get a delivery date. I'm very hard to get a hold of. Emails are going to be about a 10% chance. The only way is to really get me in a live stream. It's 100% reliable. And then because I'm a grifter, I charge for it. So I'm sorry for that. Yeah, if you're getting complacent, you need to, again, everything we talked about, that definitely applies to you. You need to get back in fear mode again. The best motivator in life is fear. crazy how a man's got to pay the bills. Yeah, that's you know, it's two things. It keeps you motivated with what you need to do on the flat earth, but it also keeps you nice and frosty spiritually, because when you are in need, when your need is no longer your comfy bank account, that's when you spend more time on your knees. That's why God said that it's hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God, for that very reason. It's not impossible, depends on the man, because it goes on to say all things are possible with God, but I think you get the point. I think I saw that was on a Hallmark card one time. Sometimes a man's just got to be practical and get stuff done too. You're not wrong, but those platitudes are not helpful sometimes when you're in the weeds. They can actually have the opposite effect that the well-meaning Christian is intending. Can we get an amen on that? Nothing is as cold as charity. Yes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, indeed. Well, that one stings a little bit, gentlemen. If you didn't just get a dagger in your heart, then you're not, then you'd be lying. Yes, I like the trick is to make a very large needle or a very small camel. The good book says it's easier for a man or for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God than it is for a camel to fit through a needle, or the eye of a needle. Preposterous, right? But what our well-meaning fundamentalists always forget to do is to read on. And if you read on, it says, but all things are possible with God, right? Leaving it out for the rich man that can escape the temptation that comes with having riches. You know, it's the thief on the cross moment. It's a thief on the cross story for the rich man right there, is it not? That we hang on to? A deathbed confession? But it's true. Yes, above all sin, the sin of pride. As we said earlier, C.S. Lewis said that compared to sin, all others are a mere flea bite in comparison. C.S. Lewis, there's very few men, I could count them on one hand, historical figures that I would like to sit down and enjoy a beer with or a glass of wine. But I'll tell you, C.S. Lewis would be at the top of my list. Man, to be able to go in for an evening and drink and smoke with the Inklings in pre-war London, oh my goodness, can you imagine? Give me a 7 in the chat if you would like to, would have enjoyed one of those evenings, listening to Tolkien give you a preview of the Lord of the Rings in the back of that little pub. Goodness, we have a super chat. Shut it down. From Robert John Thomas. Shout out to you, Robert. Thank you very much. He says, I've seen the uptick in Eastern Orthodox grow on social media. Thoughts? Yeah, I noticed that about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago. One of the examples is that you have, I think, an extreme example. So 20 years ago or so, like if you're really plugged into pop culture, the whole red pill movement and the MGTOW movement, in my opinion, the best I could kind of see it came out of the PUAs, the early pickup artists. These are the guys that realized when the internet was kind of just getting started, online dating, it's been like 20 years ago, that there was a disproportionate, you could press an advantage if you were a decent, good-looking American, where that's when an American passport really meant something, and you projected yourself to be like a Chad, and you've worked out, and you're like a man model, right? You can go to Eastern Europe, you can go to Southeastern Asia, and it is like the wonderland, right? You are so high status, and the indigenous girls are so poor that you can pick and choose. And there were guys like that really went there and exploited that before it became well known and just clean house. These are guys that laid with thousands of women. I'm not lifting this up as an example. I forgot, now I'm ranting. There was a point here. Oh, speaking of the Orthodox. So, Roosh V is one of these guys. I actually met him. And I followed him for a long time. I first found, I really kind of being introduced to this way of thinking, or the Great Awakening, or waking up out of the Matrix, to his content. And a lot of it was the PUA things. And that was really, I was becoming to be made aware of, not all women are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. That there are problems in paradise. So that was kind of the gateway for that. Long story short, Roosh V, who is a very smart and intellectual guy, has made the extreme transition from being basically a gigolo, a gigolo is what we would have called it, to being a very devout follower of the Eastern Orthodox. And that transformation has all been online to follow and to watch. And he still currently uploads content. It's hard to find because because of his PUA days, he's been completely canceled on all platforms. So he's had a prodigal experience online, and I've followed that and I've watched that. So no, it doesn't surprise me, because his voice is on there making this argument. The Jay Dyer is a popular guy who is an intellectual and a guy I respect and admire very much. And I mean, hard for me to follow him sometimes. He's just so well read and such a brilliant mind. But he also is pushing and showing a lot of young people, young men, that this is the way. It's going to be this faith, because the Orthodoxy appeals to, I think, young men because it gives you some structure. If you didn't make the military, or that just wasn't for you, it gives you something that is something where you can follow the rules. We like to have problems to solve and obstacles to overcome. And we also like to compare ourselves and our abilities next to other guys to see how we stack up. That's why we enter races. I want to see, do I have what it takes? Or that's why a guy signs up to go through buds. I want to see, I think I'm bad, but am I really bad? I'm going to go put myself shoulder to shoulder with guys that are bad and see if I stack up, because how do I judge myself? And if I didn't have a father telling me at 12, or a grandfather patting you on the back for your first kill, you're always looking for that. So it draws that type of guy. So I'm not surprised, and we're going to see more of it. And it's always been that way. Your access as a man to having this idea that there's someone for everyone, that's never been the truth in the past. There's always been women that wanted to be with the high status guys. And there's always been a disproportionate amount of guys that did not have access to women because they weren't tall enough, they didn't make enough money, they weren't attractive enough. Women have always, and always will be, would rather attach themselves and share a man of high value than they would to settle for someone that they think is low value, which is usually their equal or one or two steps above them, but they can't see it always. So that's why we have men that have been willing to enter into the armies. I mean, the pay has always been the trash, but with the army or getting into the military, let's say you're going to join the legions, you at least had an opportunity to get out of your rut. Maybe you're making bricks, or you're a baker, or you're doing some menial task, and you're watching the soldiers walk by and all of their regalia. My goodness, you're standing there with your mouth watering. You're thinking, what am I doing, man? I'm 25, I'm still living at my parents' house, and I'm not doing anything. And I see these dudes that are going in the military and they look so good with their dress blues on. You know, you don't think that's a psyop to get young men to go and to dedicate their bodies for destruction in a military that offers them very little monetarily? So you have the ability to get a turnkey pride and respect when you put the uniform on, but you also now have elevated your sexual market value because now you're a soldier and you're in that uniform, and women are always going to swoon to the uniform. They're going to hold you up in a higher standard than you were if you were not wearing it. I mean, if you're a short king, you're 5'6", and you roll up to try to cold call on some girl, some thotty at a mall, and you've got the backwards hat and you're sagging and you've got a hoodie on, and the same dude shows up high and tight in dress blues, do you not think that the sexual market value of the guy with the dress blues on is not going to be above yours, all things being equal? So guys have been willing to, throughout history, put their life on the line for hopes that maybe that would elevate them to the point where they could have children and a family and elevate me and elevate my sexual market value. Don't discount that, for sure. But for those who were not able to do that, we had the monasteries. You have either you're going to be a soldier and go and march with Caesar's legions and live a very difficult life, or you're going to attach yourself as maybe a tradesman. But even a tradesman, the blacksmith, his sexual market value has gotten way up because he's living in the nice town. He's upper middle class now. The king even comes, the noblemen even come to the blacksmith for they have need of him. So he's going to be able to acquire a higher value woman. So if you couldn't get into the trades, and the trades were really gate kept by guilds, so it was not something you can't just wake up and be an urchin on the street and like, I'm going to be a blacksmith now. No, that was reserved for a certain class of people. You were picking garbage or picking rope. It was Dickens' time, right? They were the best of times, they were the worst of times. So your options were very bleak. Go into the military, the Navy, probably die, probably get scurvy, probably get maimed, or you could go into the clergy, you could go into the monasteries and become a sodomite. So those were your choices. That's the way it's always been. So this opportunity that America was, this dream that the boomers got to enjoy, the wheels are falling off of that. That was a once in a 1,000-year time of prosperity that you do not have access to anymore, young man. And that's why the boomers are so infuriating, because they got to experience that. It was easy. They got to go through life on easier mode. And then they sit up in their McMansions and they look down upon the millennials and the Zoomers. It's like, why don't you do what we did? They're so out of touch and so disaffected with the world has moved on. And the apparatus that was in place to allow them to live the way that they did on single incomes no longer exists. It's been stripped out and it's gone. So that's why they're so insufferable. Let us continue. But the war band knows all these things. I preach to the choir. Utah man, yes, oftentimes Utah man is definitely capable. It's been my experience. Especially Eastern Utah man. I'm in the dirt again. Definitely in the dirt. Greetings from Saskatchewan. Very happy to have you here. Yes, Eli, you get it. Shout out to Eli. Eli's probably got one of those nice jobs where you get to sit inside a heated shack, like operating a toll bridge, so he can watch the snow stream while he's at work. Yes, I used to be about drag racing, not professionally, but I used to race my first car. I had a 70 Challenger with a small block. I used to race my Challenger at Woodburn Drag Strip. One of our first dates with Mrs. W, I took her to the Woodburn Drag Strip for the Nationals. You know, if you've not been to an NHRA Nationals drag race, you can't begin to comprehend the experience. Who here's been to a national and watched the AA Top Fuel dragsters have been like within stone's throw of them and had that experience? It's like nothing you can imagine. So to bring Mrs. W and all of her fineries to that was quite an experience for her, fresh out of law school, right? That's a great first date if you're online dating and you want to do something cool that no one else has thought of. Take her to your local drag race. Any form of racing, especially auto racing, it gets them in the mood. Even if you're not a driver, it kind of rubs up some of Chad's special Chad dust rubs off on you. Because Chad is always driving the race cars and riding the race bikes. Yeah, not a good place for a conversation. Yeah. But you can remove yourself from it. You can go and you can go behind the stands, and go get a elephant ear or whatever they have there. You can escape it. That's why movies are a terrible place for a first date, to sit awkwardly in that environment where you can't talk, you can't pick up on eye contact and physical cues. It's a terrible idea. A movie is something you go and do with your old lady when you've been married for 20 years, and you can enjoy it a lot more without all the stress. I'm here for dating advice. I know all about it. I have hunted on horseback before. I did not have family with horses, so I was always on loaners, and it was a family, a group that I did not always hunt with, but sometimes we found ourselves in the same area. So I have had, yes, I'm very familiar with it. Horses, we used to hunt with horses and mules, and we always packed our own animals out with pack boards, but always there was a group, if that family arrived, that not only packed into remote areas like the Minam with mules and horses, but I'm very familiar with it. And how to tie all the packs and all that, I get it. See, when you hunt, one thing that's nice about hunting on animals, but trust me, there are so many downsides that overweigh the positive sides. Let's not get that twisted. But if you're walking in the forest hunting or stalking, it's very unnatural, and it spooks animals. Just the sound of your footsteps, your gait, your shape, everything about you. They're not used to seeing it. But a horse is a four-legged creature, and when walking through the forest is very similar to an elk or a deer or any four-legged animals. and most of the places you're going to hunt out west is open range, so you're going to have a lot of they're used to cows walking by, so the animals are not afraid of them. So you can just have a nice time, on horseback, meandering through the woods, and walk right up on game because it's not spooked by you. But also, if you live in an area, if you go too far east where there's rattlesnakes, most horses go crazy. They absolutely lose it. And you can get hurt. Ask me how I know. That's just one of many, 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 many downsides with hay burners. The juice is not worth the squeeze. Would be Proho stance on that. You gotta have a burning in the bosom to deal with those horses. I mean, you gotta have something more than just looking at the practicalness of it. There's no end to misery. Tennessee? Refresh my memory, gentlemen. Did we give West Coast status to Tennessee? North Carolina we did, but I don't remember. I'm gonna have to have the archive searched before I can answer that question, because I don't want to misspeak. I don't remember. Yeah, that's very true about hunting. That's when the real work begins, is when the butchering. I know about the real work. We used to get animals down the bottom of Hell's Canyon, which I'm always fond of reminding you guys is deeper than the Grand Canyon. I want you to know how much I struggled and what a hero I was. But the older guys that weren't strong enough, but still strong enough to hunt, would go down there and butcher the animals and cut the meat off the bone, because it was too much to carry the bones out. So they would be down there butchering, and the young guys grab your rifle, because usually you were still hunting. So you hunted while you packed meat, and take your pack board and take the long and difficult trip all the way down from the rim. We always camped on the top. Pick up your 40 to 65 pound meat pack, put it on your pack board that was World War II surplus made out of plywood and had 1-inch webbing shoulder straps and no waist belt. And you're 14. Put that on with a 10-pound rifle and scope and all your rations and your food and your ammunition, and start and it's 18 degrees below zero, and then start stepping out of that canyon for the all-day journey to take one bloody sack of meat out of the bottom of that canyon. And that went on for multiple days. They were the best of times, they were the worst of times. That's why real Gen Xers are so tough. We're like the honey badger. And that also would have been done with wet feet for half of them. My granddad was a soldier, so he knew how to take care of your feet, and he passed that on. So luckily I didn't have to suffer with wet feet. Because that is really, you really do suffer. goodness. Just Dave coming in with the super chat. Shut it down, put some respect upon his name. Just Dave, happy Sabbath, Cody. Give us this as the tithe and take it for the reflection after the stream. I appreciate that, really do. What he's referring to, Just Dave, those of us who keep the God's Sabbath, starts Friday at sunset tonight. And that's a reference to that, so shout out to you. Yep, I'm looking forward to that. It's been a long week. Hopefully we get back on our feet again. Thank you, brother, for that. Let us proceed. Yep, Sabbath starts at sunset, Friday evening until sunset, 24 hours. No, an East Coast man wouldn't have been so lazy and would have moved his truck so he doesn't have to blow snow in an inefficient manner because he's worried about breaking his glass window again. By throwing a rock into it. The Sabbath, in the 10 Commandments, go and read, and the 4th commandment starts with the word remember. Remember my Sabbath day to keep it holy. Yet 6 days you shall work. You shall not do any work on the 7th. It has been sanctified and set aside. It is the day of the Lord. What God has done for us is He wants us to do all of our work 6 days. He wants us to take a day off. If we're going to take the spiritual out of it and just look at the practicalness of it, we are biological machines that have been made to work a certain day. And our Creator, the one that made us, has given us this instruction because He is kind to us and wants us to be as happy and healthy as possible. Has given us the instruction to do your work. Make sure you take 24 hours off and set it aside to spend some time doing what you like to do, some time reflecting on the goodness of God, some time with your family. And that's why He didn't put too many rules on it. Now, our Jewish brothers would like us to think that we need to follow a lot of rules by doing this or doing that, or we can't cook, or we can't pick up sticks, or we can't do that. That's never in God's Word. He left it up to our interpretation because He understands that there are so many different conditions people find themselves in. And He respects our intellect and our individuality to be able to come up with His guidance, what works for us. And I'm not saying there are many roads to heaven. There are some standards that need to be kept. For example, on the 7th day, which if you look at your calendar, the 7th day of the week is Saturday. Sunday is the first day of the week. I'm going to end with this because my microphone's about to go dead. I lost my train of thought. The point of being that your life will go better and you'll have a richer and better relationship with God is if you keep that 7th day. And just make a commitment to your family that we're not going to do any work. And it really is a blessing. For example, your wife or girlfriend won't be able to guilt you on Saturday when you want to lay on the couch for half of the day and play Super Mario. Because you've already made the agreement. Your family policy is you don't do work on the Sabbath. Now, this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but the fact remains that it is very nice to have that day where all of the pressing work and all the undone projects you have around there, you can be guilt-free and no, I've made the decision that as for me and my house, we're going to serve God. We're going to keep His holy Sabbath. And God also sanctified it, blessed it. He set it aside. He made something different about it. So if you have a need or you want to get deep in prayer or draw close to your Father, that's always a good day to do it. I always think it's a good day to fast, but it's not required. you want to feast with your family and have special meals, Mrs. W in the past has always had a special meal or a special dessert for the family or for the kids, so that they can start to look at the Sabbath as something they enjoy. If your 7-year-old likes to play Thomas the Train and play Minecraft, then play Thomas the Train and Minecraft with her, so that when she grows up, she looks at the Sabbath as something that is to be looked forward to, rather than a bunch of arbitrary rules like our Jewish friends saddle upon themselves. I'm not judging, but that's the difference between the Protestant and the Jew. I still play Apex at least twice a week. It's my main game. I love it. I play it maybe 3 times a week. I might play it today. I don't know. I will play it today. I'll be in the lobbies tonight. I'm starting to reach a level what I would call, after playing it for nearly 20 years, let's say 15, of what I would call barely competent. And I would say, and that's not every game, that's on my best days, when I'm hyper-focused. Oh, I missed a super? Hold on, we're going to fix that. We have a super chat from our brother Chris Hall. Shout out to you, Chris. Chris writes, I've been collecting USA-made flashlights lately. What are your current Gouda lights? Well, you guys know I like anything from Surefire. The X300, that's a quintessential. That's something that you should have. One of your very first lights should be an X300 or 400 or whatever. Go look at them. That's going to be a weapons light that can be mounted on anything with a rail, including a rifle or a handgun. You're going to want to have a good EDC light. I think the little EDC backup lights, I'm a Surefire homer. I'm only going to recommend that. I'm not going to go with the Chinese lights. If you like them, you do whatever you want to do, but it's not my thing. I will make an exception for Streamlight. I have a lot of Streamlight products, so if you're balling on a budget, Streamlight is pro-ho recommended. It would be like a value brand, but still would be in the pantry. But Surefire is really the way to go. So once you get an EDC light, which would be a small flashlight, really the differences are beam patterns and, more importantly, your interfaces, how they interface, and that's what Surefire does so well. And then after that, I'd be looking at a high power, a light that's going to throw. So I'd probably look at the dual fuel Scout. I like the singles. I think the singles are cool and they fit better in my systems. But the dual fuel Scout is the way to go. It's got a really great mount that will fit on M-LOK or a rail, and you don't need to buy a third-party mount, and that's always been the case with a lot of these lights. So it saves you some money, and it gives you, I think, what's probably the best versatile mount on any rail system. Once you have that, that would be 3. So the X300 first, then the EDC light, then you're going to get a dual fuel Scout, and then after that, I would get a general purpose around, this would be the light you would put in the nightstand for your wife, and that's going to be, they're about just under $70. It's going to be the Surefire, the ones made out of the resin. I forget, it's a glass-filled fiberglass, super tough, super skookum, but affordable, and still a Surefire with a good interface and all of the quality that comes with that, just at a value price. So those are the lights that I would get. And I would also get for shop work, I would get a Milwaukee shop light, something that will stand up when you put it down. I love the little M12 light sticks. Those are super good, but it's not adjustable, and I find I grab the M18 with the adjustable head more often. So I would have that in your shop. That's a pretty good combo. That's a really good light combo. Actually, we'll continue on a little bit. I'm gonna come over here. I gotta grab we gotta grab fuel. Yeah, this is a good time to end it. I gotta go get some food. So if I push myself too hard, I'm gonna be back in bed again. I'm actually gonna take care of myself for once. I'm gonna back in here to the shop. Even though I'm not done, I'm done enough. I'm gonna go make myself some healthy food, eat Mrs. W's homemade chicken noodle soup, and sit by the fire and get better. How's that sound? It always stresses me out backing this into my shop, because I have a backup camera that has the little "you are here" lines, but do you ever really trust those things? And when you back a piece of equipment into something, it does expensive damage. Let's see if we nailed it or not. I'm completely living on faith. Normally I turn around and look out the back window. So scary. And of course the backup camera is like 120p. So even if your beloved pet was laying down there, I don't know if you could see it over a grease spot. Not the Proho, but I was really close to my pressure washer right there, within like an inch. But Proho doesn't have a grease spot on his floor, does he? I do have a grease spot on the floor from all the hydraulic fluid. Oh, the E just came on. It's definitely time. All right, gentlemen. Well, we're not very hot also. Don't like to shut down a cold machine. But also don't like to fill my shop full of diesel particulates. Thank you for hanging out with me all. I really do appreciate it. In regard to the streams, as soon as I can. I was really, really sick yesterday. No one cares. I'm not going to go into it. It's not nice. And I feel really weak and low drag today. So I'm going to shut it down, go get some chicken soup, put my soft ones on, sit by the stove, and maybe get a book or something. Watch some TikTok videos. Pray for me, gentlemen. Lord willing, we'll see you Friday. Maybe another stream if it keeps snowing here. It looks like it probably will. So it's highly likely. But whenever it snows, we'll always do the snow streams. So keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all in the next video.